Chapter 47-25. Kong Shinmu hadn't expected that they would be able to kill all of their opponents. In the end, only Kong Shinmu, Xiaobai, Luo Xiao, his junior apprentice brother, and the 3 juniors of the Gu family were left. There were 7 of them in total. The space was completely sealed. The others couldn't come back after they left, and they shouldn't know what had happened here. Brother Jiang, we've gained a lot this time. Even if we leave like this, we've gained a lot. Luo Xiao couldn't describe the joy in his eyes. He excitedly started to clean up the mess. There were many corpses of geniuses from various races. Although many of the corpses had exploded, he could still find many useful things from them. For example, Wei Mingtian definitely had a sea god tribe weapon on him. That was very valuable. As for cultivation resources, there were very few of them. After all, the geniuses who could explore the supreme ruins would not be slow in absorbing cultivation resources. Once they obtained cultivation resources, they would basically absorb them very quickly. They would not leave any for others to have a chance. Of course, there would definitely be some left on their bodies. The value of those added up would be considerable. 4 geniuses from the demon god tribe, 3 geniuses from the sea god tribe, and 3 geniuses from the 1,000-winged snake tribe. Bai Feng, the genius of the ancient Phoenix clan who had left first, and the 3 other disciples of the ancient Phoenix clan didn't die here. They were the only survivors besides the dragon gods. Or, they didn't count because they didn't obtain the hexagonal fire crystal. Finally, Kong Shinmu and Luo Xiao cleaned up the mess together. They gathered all the valuable things from the battlefield. Other than the hexagonal fire crystals that Jiang Shenwu and the others obtained, they also obtained a total of 32 hexagonal fire crystals from the 10 geniuses of the Sea God tribe, Demon God tribe, and 1,000-winged snake tribe. If each crystal was worth 3,000 gold dragon coins, the total value would be close to 100,000 gold dragon coins. This was an extremely terrifying amount of wealth. It could even be used to purchase many top divine dragon weapons. This was because these hexagonal fire crystals weren't used by Emperor-level dragon martial artists. They were used by stronger super divine dragons, or even supreme divine dragons. To Kong Shinmu and the others, this was a very good harvest. They couldn't use it, but they could exchange it for contribution points. It would be enough for their cultivation to rise to the next level, including Luo Xiao. As for the distribution, Luo Xiao was also very fair. He felt that it was all thanks to Kong Shinmu that he was able to monopolize so many benefits this time. Without Kong Shinmu, he might not have been able to escape unscathed, let alone kill all the geniuses of the other races. He was somewhat glad that he had chosen to stand on the same side as Kong Shinmu from the beginning and had been firm until now. In fact, after seeing Kong Shinmu's strength, he was already somewhat convinced by him, so throughout the entire operation, he did his best to cooperate with Kong Shinmu. As for Kong Shinmu, without Luo Xiao and the others to restrain him, he would not be able to complete the final killing blow. Therefore, Kong Shinmu did not take Luo Xiao lightly. Although he was strong, if he were to face too many opponents at the same time, he could only flee in a sorry state. Now that they had won, the 32 hexagonal flame crystals would be distributed fairly. Each side would have 16 crystals. It might sound unfair to Kong Shinmu, but Kong Shinmu had also obtained a dead demonic fire ring. Therefore, Kong Shinmu was already very satisfied with this arrangement. When he finally killed the genius of the Black Snake Demon God clan who was seriously injured and restrained by Xiaobai, his dead demonic fire ring finally turned pure white. The powerful energy contained in it began to grow denser and denser, and it truly belonged to Kong Shinmu. This was a dead demonic fire ring, a general support type combat weapon. The so-called general combat weapon meant that the inheritor of any race could use this dead demonic fire ring. Needless to say, the effect of this dead demonic fire ring was a super powerful treasure left by the heaven-deficient ice and fire demonic dragon. It could allow anyone to inherit the power of the dead demonic fire, a terrifying flame that could burn people's souls. The influence of the dead demonic fire ring depended on the cultivation realm and talent of the cultivator. The higher one's cultivation, the closer their talent attribute was to the dead demonic fire's attribute, and the stronger the effect would be. Most importantly, the dead demonic fire ring's attack ignored the opponent's defense. It was a mental attack. Kong Shinmu was overjoyed when he understood this. Originally, his offensive power was a bit lacking, but now that he had obtained the dead demonic fire ring, his offensive power had increased to a whole new level. It was even several times stronger than before. Currently, Kong Shinmu didn't know how strong the dead demonic fire ring's ability to burn souls was, but seeing that it was protected by the hexagonal flame crystals in the center, he knew that it must be extremely powerful. If others obtained this dead demonic fire ring, it would be considered as a very good strategic weapon for their race. However, Kong Shinmu planned to keep it for himself. After all, he only needed to be responsible for the Gu family. He didn't need to hand it over to the Five Extremes' mysterious Ice Holy Land. Of course, he needed to hand over 10% of the loot to the Gu family. In Kong Shinmu's opinion, he could directly use the hexagonal flame crystals to make up for the loot. Now that he had obtained a lot of hexagonal flame crystals, he could definitely use them to make up for 10% of the dead demonic fire ring. Apart from that, everything else was evenly distributed to the rest of the people. The cultivation resources, weapons, and elixirs from the Sea God clan, Thousand-Winged Snake clan, and Demon God clan were all evenly distributed to the rest. Everyone's harvest was very plentiful. One had to know that these geniuses were all important figures of their respective clans. They definitely had many good things on them. All the good things on them went to Xiaobai and the others. Even the 3 juniors of the Gu family were evenly distributed. This made them feel very gratified. Luo Xiao and Kong Shinmu were very good to them. Even though they had contributed the least in the battle, they still received an equal share of the loot. This made them feel very touched. The loot that each of them received was equivalent to a hexagonal flame crystal. This harvest was definitely enough. Of course, Kong Shinmu was also willing to share a portion of the 16 hexagonal flame crystals with the other dragon martialists. After all, everyone had fought together. It was impossible for Kong Shinmu to take all the loot for himself. Otherwise, why would they risk their lives if there was any danger in the future? At a crucial moment, even the battle strength of a single junior of the Gu family could be the straw that broke the camel's back. Therefore, Kong Shinmu had to pay attention to it. Chapter 47-26. Kong Shinmu and Luo Xiao walked together. In order to prevent the following accidents, Luo Xiao suggested that his junior brother and a junior of the Gu family leave the relic first and bring out the things that they had obtained. This was done according to the rules because they had gained enough this time. If they went deeper and all died inside, the loss would be too great. Therefore, the 2 of them should bring out the hexagonal fiery crystal first. This was their most important gain on this trip. This way they could guarantee their harvest. As for the dragon martial artist who brought out the things, he must tell the truth. As to who these gains belonged to and how much each person had, he must make it clear. Kong Shinmu was not afraid that the junior of the Gu family would talk nonsense after leaving and say that the hexagonal fiery crystal belonged to him. This kind of thing was unrealistic, and he did not dare to do so. Because if Kong Shinmu and the others could get out of here alive, his lie would be exposed. This would not only affect his reputation, but also the reputation of the Gu family and even the Holy Land of Five Extremes' mysterious ice. Therefore, there was no need to worry about this. Therefore, Kong Shinmu agreed. He asked a junior of the Gu family to knock on a spatial formation in the passage. They could leave directly through this spatial formation. Together with Luo Xiao's junior brother, they left the relic first. When fighting for space in the palace, no one could leave. But if they were in the passage, they could knock on the spatial formation and leave directly. This was common sense when exploring the relic. As for what people obtained and what happened after they brought out the things, only the elders of the dragon gods would know. The other races would not know. Therefore, there were only 5 people left in Kong Shinmu's team. He, Xiaobai, Luo Xiao, and 2 juniors of the Gu family. Luo Xiao was free and easy. He directly let himself go with Kong Shinmu alone. He did not feel that it was inappropriate to cooperate with such an unequal number of people. Obviously, he had enough confidence and trust in Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu didn't let anyone take back the dead soul's demonic fire ring, because it was something that belonged to him. The Gu family had promised him in advance that he could use it as he pleased. Moreover, this thing could be very useful in the upcoming battle. The 5 of them moved forward along the tunnel and soon discovered a corpse along the way. Their expressions changed slightly. This corpse belonged to the Demon God clan. This genius of the Demon God clan didn't even have the chance to activate his Demon God body before he was killed in the passageway. Who did it? Everyone started guessing. That should be the ancient Phoenix clans by Feng. Luo Zhao's face darkened as he said, He was the first to leave the space just now, so he's lying in ambush outside. As long as someone comes out, he'll bring people to kill them. This is a very reasonable speculation. It was indeed reasonable. Kong Shinmu's expression wasn't too good either. As they continued forward, they discovered the corpse of another junior brother of Luo Zhao's. After the ancient Phoenix clan left, each of the clans had sent one person to leave in advance. Now, the junior brother that Luo Zhao had sent from the Starry Sky Sacred Lands had also died in the passageway. Following that, the corpses of geniuses from the Thousand-Winged Snake clan and the Sea God clan were also discovered. They were all geniuses that excelled in concealment, but they had been discovered and killed one by one. Moreover, they hadn't even had the time to react. There are traces of an array formation activating near each corpse. It seems that they stepped into Bai Feng's trap. Luo Zhao guessed, his expression extremely dark. After all, one of his junior brothers from the Starry Sky Sacred Lands had died. Kong Shinmu nodded and said, "The corpses that we discovered first were the last to die. The first to die was the corpse of the Sea God clan genius that walked in front. Bai Feng and the others should have first set up an ambush. After they succeeded, they approached the passageway and set up another trap to kill them before the others discovered the corpse." There was no problem with this guess. The main thing was that Kong Shinmu and Luo Zhao could feel the aura of the ancient Phoenix clan from these corpses. This kind of aura was relatively easy to distinguish. After all, the various clans all had different inherited strengths. It was easy to distinguish which clan had done it. This caused Kong Shinmu to suddenly think of his own situation. He cultivated many different inherited strengths. Did that mean that he could sometimes kill his opponents and then pass them on to other clans? For instance, the Void Human race. As for the Demon God race, there was no need. After all, Kong Shinmu was now considered one of the Demon God race's own people. He was the man of the Demon God race's little princess Xueqi. There was no need for him to harm the Demon God race. But this method was impossible for others to use. Thus, if they felt the aura of the ancient Phoenix clan, it meant that someone from the ancient Phoenix clan had done it. Be careful. Bai Feng might still be lying in ambush nearby. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind. This Bai Feng was not someone to be trifled with. He had likely guessed that there would be a fierce battle inside, so he had left ahead of time to set up an ambush. If his ambush had been successful, then wouldn't those hexagonal flame crystals all belong to Bai Feng? Everything that Kong Shinmu and the others had done would have become Bai Feng's wedding dress. This was where Luo Zhao's experience came from. He had sent people to bring the items back ahead of time in order to prevent such a situation from occurring. He wanted to preserve as much of his harvest as possible, but that did not mean that Luo Zhao thought he would die. He was just taking precautions. Be careful. The five of them walked forward together. Kong Shinmu walked at the front, and Luo Zhao walked at the back. All of a sudden, bursts of magical light erupted from the passageway around them. The terrifying power formed a flaming cage and directly enveloped the five of them. The appearance of the cage of flames caused the expressions of Kong Shinmu and the others to change. They quickly reacted. But this passage was a little narrow, and there was even less space within the cage of flames. This made it impossible for them to transform into dragons. As expected, there was an ambush. Bai Feng appeared in their field of vision with 3 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix clan. They soon arrived outside the cage of flames and leisurely looked at Kong Shinmu, Luo Zhao, and the others who were trapped in the cage. "Only the 5 of you?" Bai Feng was a little surprised. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the dead spirit demon fire ring on Kong Shinmu's finger. He did not expect that in the final battle in that space, Kong Shinmu and the others would win. Moreover, the 5 of them had come out together. Did that mean that everyone else had been killed? This was too unexpected. What about that idiot Wei Mengtian? He couldn't have died, right? Chapter 47-27. When Bai Feng and the others appeared outside the flame cage, Kong Shinmu knew that the other party was ready to make a move. However, Kong Shinmu was faster. His devouring power erupted from his body. Although he had not transformed into a dragon, the strength of his devouring power had reached a shocking level. If he had not transformed into a dragon, Kong Shinmu's other abilities would only have 30% of his divine dragon form. However, the strength of his devouring power could retain at least 80% of its strength. This was because the power of the devouring power did not come from Kong Shinmu himself. A large part of the power came from the black dragon consciousness within his body. This was why his devouring power could crush his opponents at the same level. At that moment, the devouring power surged out violently and blasted against the flame cage. Fighting me in an environment where you can't transform into a dragon. You've made full use of my advantage. Kong Shinmu's expression was calm. Although he had encountered an unexpected ambush, he did not panic at all. As his devouring power erupted and blasted against the flame cage, the power of the flame cage was instantly devoured by the devouring power. The passageway was surrounded by hard rock walls. If it had been an ordinary rock wall, they could have broken through in their dragon transformation. However, in the Supreme Ruins underground, they could not break through the passageway even in their dragon transformation. The passageway was too sturdy, and it was even protected by a supreme power. How could they possibly break through it? Therefore, although Bai Feng was lying in ambush here, he could not transform into a dragon and could not unleash his full strength. Their ambush might have been extremely smooth. However, they had encountered Kong Shinmu. They could only say that they were unlucky. Too unlucky. The devouring power surged out and in less than 3 breaths, it devoured a huge hole in the flame cage in front of them. Kong Shinmu led Luo Xiao and the others, who were dumbfounded, out of the flame cage in a hurry. After they came out, the devouring power had already condensed into a dark sky curtain that enveloped the entire place. In this dark sky curtain, Kong Shinmu's group of 5 and Bai Feng's group of 4 seemed to be trapped and faced each other. What? Bai Feng's expression changed drastically when he saw that Kong Shinmu was actually able to easily break the flame cage he had set up. This flame cage was a trap that he had meticulously set up. If he could transform into a dragon, then breaking through this flame cage would not be a problem. However, in the situation where he could not transform into a dragon, this flame cage was extremely powerful. How did Kong Shinmu break it so easily? Since you ambushed us, don't blame us for being ruthless. Kong Shinmu said calmly. The surrounding area was shrouded in a dark curtain of devouring power. Instantly, it spread out like a horrifying hell, attempting to envelop Bai Feng and the others. The devouring power erupted in a frenzy. Bai Feng did not hesitate at all. A crazed look crossed his handsome face as he took out a top ancient Phoenix Clan war weapon from his chest. A fierce flame swept out from the ancient Phoenix Clan soldier. It didn't attack anyone else, but wrapped around Bai Feng, creating an extremely mystical power of space. Originally, this space had been sealed by him to ensure that Kong Shinmu and the others would not be able to escape through space. But now, it had become his own prison. Thus, he used his final escape method. He directly used the top ancient Phoenix Clan soldier to shuttle through space and escape from this place in the next moment. Perhaps because the ancient Phoenix Clan soldier could only take one person with it. After Bai Feng left, the remaining 3 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix Clan paled. They never imagined that Bai Feng would abandon them at such a critical moment. We surrender. The 3 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix Clan had uncertain expressions. They immediately bowed to Kong Shinmu and the others. In order to express their sincerity, they even handed over their cultivation resources and ancient Phoenix Clan soldier. It was obvious that they only wanted to live. Kong Shinmu did not have any deep hatred with them. However, one of their junior apprentice brothers from the Starry Sky Holy Lands had been ambushed and killed by them and Bai Feng. Thus, Luo Xiao would not let them go. He first sneered, "What a good plan you all have. Fine, surrender is surrender. We can't just kill those who surrender, right?" He sneered as he approached them. Just as the 3 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix Clan relaxed their vigilance, Luo Xiao suddenly attacked. Although he could only use 30% of his strength, it was still a fatal existence against the 3 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix Clan who had not transformed into fire phoenixes. The power of the stars erupted, swallowing the 3 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix Clan into a vortex of stars. In an instant, they were completely strangled to death. As for the ancient Phoenix Clan soldier that they had left behind, Luo Xiao took it and handed it to Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu, it was all thanks to you that we were able to escape. I don't want these things anymore. Luo Xiao did not hesitate and handed over the spoils of war to Kong Shinmu. These things were useless to Kong Shinmu. However, he could hand them over as spoils of war, which could also increase his contribution points. After the 3 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix clan were killed, the devouring power in the passage was finally withdrawn by Kong Shin-mu. The whole passage became much quieter. It was a pity that Bai Feng had escaped. Kong Shin-mu thought for a while and said, Bai Feng knows that we have the dead spirit demon fire ring. If we let him escape this time, we can't hide it anymore. It doesn't matter. If we can hide it, we will. If we can't, it doesn't matter. We are not afraid. Luo Xiao laughed and said, Brother Jiang, our Dragon God clan is so lucky to have such a powerful genius like you. We should strive for more in this exploration of the supreme relic. Jiang Xinwu's appearance had truly shocked him. An expert with such astonishing battle prowess was something that all the clans wanted to have. In the elementary relic, Kong Shin-mu could do many things. Kong Shin-mu did not comment on his words and continued to lead the group forward. This time, they killed cultivators of other clans. The number was not large, nor was it small. It was not small because there were 20 to 30 cultivators of other clans who entered the supreme relic. Killing 4 or 5 of them was only a small part of them. It was not small because they were all geniuses of other clans. Losing 4 or 5 geniuses at once was a considerable loss for each clan. Kong Shin-mu and the others continued to move forward. Soon, they passed through this long passage and came to another spacious underground space. Chapter 47-28. It was a fire-related space. Kong Shin-mu's heart skipped a beat when he saw the space. It seemed that this supreme relic belonging to the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire was much larger than he had imagined. He had encountered fire-attributed spaces twice in a row, but he knew that there must be ice-attributed spaces in the supreme relic that contained ice-attributed treasures. Could it be that all the spaces he had encountered were fire-attributed spaces? As for the others, such as Xueqi, Mr. Evil, and the others who didn't go with him, they went to the ice-attribute space? It seems that the structure of this supreme relic is that there are many paths that lead to one. Luo Xiao nodded and said with a smile, The ones on the outskirts are all ordinary treasures. However, the hexagonal fiery crystal and the dead spirit demonic fire ring that we obtained this time are both high-grade treasures, and there are a lot of them. It seems that this supreme relic contains a lot of treasures as a whole. If I'm not wrong, there will be other people who will come to this space and compete for the treasure in this space. So on and so forth. The person who will be able to obtain the treasure in the end will definitely be the strongest among this group of explorers. Kong Shin-mu nodded. He had a general idea of what Luo Xiao meant. In other words, there were probably more than 10 different spaces in the supreme relic. Everyone was divided into at least 10 groups, and the first space they encountered was the outermost space. Then, the victors would advance into the supreme relic, and the victors would meet up with the victors. This was the structure of the supreme relic that Luo Xiao had guessed. A supreme relic with this structure was the most terrifying because there could only be one final victor. The others, even the victors of the first space, had to make a choice. If they continued to advance and failed, they would be doomed eternally, and all their gains would go to someone else. Alternatively, they could return home and leave the supreme relic with their gains, giving up on what they might find later. That way, they could keep what they had already gained. However, there was another way. When there were still a lot of people left, they could send out the things that they had temporarily obtained, just like Luo Xiao and Kong Shin-mu did. The rest of the people would continue to explore. Even if there were some accidents, the races outside would not leave empty-handed. Every time you reach a new space, you will either be able to directly meet the victors of other paths, or it has not been opened and cannot be entered. Luo Xiao looked around the space and said, This is all for the sake of fair competition. Now that we've entered this space and there's no need to wait, it can be seen that either there's no one else here, or the others have already hidden themselves. No one. Kong Shin-mu shook his head. When he first entered the fire-attributed space, he had already checked the surroundings and did not find anyone hiding. Including their own, there were a total of 3 paths that led to this space. There was also a stone door that should be able to leave this space through that stone door and head deeper into the supreme ruins. In other words, under normal circumstances, there should be 3 groups of people appearing in this space. However, now only Kong Shin-mu's group of 5 appeared. The other 2 paths might have suffered too many losses and only 1 or 2 members are left. Naturally, they will not continue to explore further. Although treasures are good, life is more important. Luo Xiao guessed. Well, then let's stay vigilant and see what treasures there are in this space. Then we will try to take them. Kong Shinmu said. He was a little worried. Now that the total number of people was relatively small, if the situation was still the same as before, he might not even be able to collect the treasures in this space and could only watch helplessly. The 5 of them transformed into dragons and flew towards the stone pillar in the center of the space. When they got closer, they found that there was a stone box on the stone pillar. There were some flame patterns carved around the stone box, as if no one had touched it for a long time. The treasure is in this stone box? Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes and said, "Everyone, step aside and protect me. I will open this stone box." "Brother Jiang, be careful." Luo Zhao's expression was calm. "This stone box is a little strange. After all, there is no one in this space. It doesn't mean that no one came here. It is also possible that someone came here and died. Therefore, the only place in this space that might be dangerous is this stone box." "Don't worry, I will be careful." Kong Shinmu transformed into a black dragon and circled around the stone pillar, observing the stone box. "If even I can't resist the danger of this stone box, then no one can." Kong Shinmu thought that since this stone box was placed here as a place to store treasures, there must be a way to open it and resist the danger inside. For Kong Shinmu, although he was not arrogant, he had a reasonable amount of confidence. His defensive ability was definitely top-notch among the 4th-level martial emperors. Moreover, his devouring power could deal with any situation. It could be said that he was definitely the strongest among this batch of cultivators who entered the Supreme Relic when facing unknown dangers. Xiao Bai, Luo Xiao, and the other 2 Gu family dragon martial artists retreated far away. They hovered carefully in the air and observed Kong Shinmu's every move. Kong Shinmu, on the other hand, was circling around the stone pillar. He first displayed the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique's defensive stance, then released the devouring power to surround his body. His entire Divine Dragon body was shrouded by the devouring power, as if a terrifying existence had flown out from a mysterious place. Then, he slowly circled above the huge stone pillar, extended his dragon claw from the black mist, and opened the stone box that was originally tightly shut. Suddenly, a white flame swept out from the stone box and spread towards Kong Shinmu's black dragon body, burning it. In the face of such a scene, Jiang Shenwu rejoiced that he was prepared to face danger. The pitch-black devouring force that enveloped him blocked the wave of white flames and began to devour them. Kong Shinmu's heart trembled. He could feel that the white flame contained an extremely terrifying destructive power. It was even more tyrannical and terrifying than any of the opponents he had faced before. Even a powerhouse at Luo Zhao's level might not be able to resist such power. At this moment, Kong Shinmu somewhat believed that it was very likely that someone had tried to open the stone box, but was burned to ashes by the white flame in the stone box. Even the dragon bones were not left behind. This showed how terrifying the white flame was. Chapter 47-29. Kong Shinmu's devouring power surged out and continuously devoured the white flames. However, there were still quite a number of flames that broke through his devouring power and directly invaded his black divine dragon body. They began to burn his divine dragon tyrant body's power. Fortunately, he had displayed the divine dragon tyrant body technique's defensive stance in advance, so that his defense was at its peak. In addition, with the devouring power weakening the white flames, he could not let the white flames hurt him. However, what surprised him was that the white flames were actually becoming more and more violent. Boundless ghastly white flames continuously erupted from the stone box and surged out. Very quickly, they condensed into 3, 4, until there were 7 ghastly white flames. They coiled around Jiang Shenwu from different directions and attacked him. Such a terrifying attack in a dangerous situation made Kong Shinmu a little perilous. The devouring power constantly devoured the white flames, thereby increasing his own resistance to this kind of fire attribute power. In addition, when Kong Shinmu was in the previous space, he had devoured a lot of fire attribute power, so his current resistance to fire attribute power was still quite amazing. However, even so, the white flames were like maggots attached to bones, entangling his entire body and burning the black dragon scales on the surface of his dragon body. Terrifying flames. However, Kong Shinmu was indeed Kong Shinmu. His defense ability was definitely the strongest person who could enter the supreme ruins. Therefore, he could still resist the flames in the stone box. The next moment, the 7 white flames in the stone box finally dissipated completely. All the flames shrouded Kong Shinmu's entire divine dragon body. Kong Shinmu's black divine dragon body seemed to be burning. This scene made Luo Xiao extremely shocked. Was the body-tempering dragon martial art really so powerful? The defense of Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body was actually so terrifying. Although he was a little far away, Luo Xiao could still clearly feel the horror of the white flames surging out of the stone box. It was an extremely powerful flame. Even if Luo Xiao used all his defensive means, he might not be able to resist it. However, Kong Shinmu used his divine dragon body to resist all the white flames, extinguish them, and even devour and absorb them. Amazing! Luo Xiao really admired Kong Shinmu now. Originally, he was still a little unconvinced that Kong Shinmu could become a fifth-class disciple of the Five Extremes Dark Ice Holy Land. But now, he was completely convinced by Kong Shinmu's strength. This was too heaven-defying. This kind of strength could basically dominate all the primary ruins. This Dragon God clan had a top relic explorer. The primary relic is still relatively low level, and the value of the things produced in it is relatively low. If Kong Shinmu reaches the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor, will he be able to go to the intermediate relic and get better things from there? The intermediate relic is a place that is more likely to produce strategic treasures. The possibility of producing strategic treasures is twice as high as the primary relic. When Kong Shinmu breaks through to the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor, our Dragon God clan may have a chance to break the deadlock. The exploration of the Supreme Relic was the top priority of all the clans. Even now, when the Dragon God clan was besieged by the 4 clans, they had not given up on the exploration of the Supreme Relic. It was because the Supreme Relic was likely to produce some strategic treasures. Those strategic treasures were not very useful for a dragon martial artist at the level of Kong Shinmu. But if they were given to a supreme expert, they would be a tyrannical existence that could change the situation of the battle. The reason why the Dragon God clan could compete with the 4 clans was that, in addition to the fact that the Dragon God clan was one of the strongest clans among the clans, in recent years, the Dragon God clan had gained an advantage in the exploration of the Supreme Relic and obtained a lot of strategic treasures. The importance of each strategic treasure was equivalent to that of at least 10 supreme experts at the Divine Dragon level. It was conceivable that with every additional strategic treasure, the advantage of the Dragon God clan against the 4 clans would be greater. For Luo Xiao, he was extremely eager to find strategic treasures in the Supreme Relic, so he had been stuck at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor and resisted the urge to break through to the next level. Otherwise, with his talent, he would have reached the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor by now. Of course, he was stuck at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor, and he had explored several primary relics and survived successfully. He had gained a lot, but after all, he had not seen any strategic treasures. This was his only regret. For example, people like Susan Luo and young Master Yao Xie had obtained strategic treasures in the past. That was why they were so famous, and everyone knew about them. And now, in Luo Zhao's view, the strength of Kong Shinmu definitely surpassed that of Susan Luo. Even the top combat power of the evil prince seemed to be somewhat insignificant in front of Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu was too strong. He had definitely exceeded the scope of the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor. And this was because Kong Shinmu's advanced Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts technique had not been cultivated to a higher level. If it were some old men at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor, their strength would definitely be very strong. In fact, the various relic exploration teams had many older existences. These older existences were the absolute main force in exploring the supreme relics. For example, some of the old men at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor had cultivated the advanced Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts technique to the highest level. An attack like the 9th stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Explosion could be easily executed, and it would erupt with top-notch destructive power. Who could compare to them among the young people now? However, there were still some restrictions to exploring the Supreme Relics. It was not the age limit of the Supreme Relics, but the Supreme Relics were also divided into 2 types. One was a temporary relic similar to the Supreme Relic that Kong Shinmu and the others had entered. This Supreme Relic would close after a period of time and completely collapse. After that, there would basically be no treasures in it, and it would become a relic ruin. There was another type, and that was a permanent relic. Generally speaking, permanent relics were formed by the deaths of many supreme experts. There were relatively few of them, but each one was incomparably vast. The treasures that could be produced were simply unimaginable. Of course, the danger was also the highest. Permanent relics were not suitable for young people like Kong Shin-mu. Young relic explorers were basically sent to temporary relics, and they would leave after one wave of exploration. The casualty rate was also relatively low. There had been young relic explorers who went to permanent relics, but in the end, the mortality rate was actually as high as 90%. Chapter 47:30. So later, the permanent relics were left to the older men to explore. These old men had been used to being at their respective levels for countless years. Their cultivation realms were unable to advance any further and become stronger existences. How bad was the talent of a dragon warrior at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor at such an old age? But they had enough time to practice and improve their combat power, especially in terms of advanced Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts. They could practice it to the peak of the peak for decades. That combat power was far beyond many young people at the 4th level of the Emperor stage. Even if Kong Shin-mu was in front of them, he might not be able to suppress them. In Luo Zhao's eyes, Kong Shin-mu's strength could be compared with the old men at that level. This was a very high evaluation, because this combat power with Kong Shin-mu's current age was obviously an extremely rare thing. If Kong Shin-mu could maintain this combat power and constantly improve his cultivation realm, how amazing would it be? Maybe Kong Shin-mu is qualified to explore the permanent relics. Luo Xiao thought. The permanent relics generally existed in the deeper parts of the chaotic battlefield. The 4th to 6th levels were the middle parts of the chaotic battlefield, and many people explored them. Most of the permanent relics were located at the beginning of the 7th level. That was a more dangerous place. The dragon gods did not have many strongholds after the 7th level, but they still had the exploration rights of several permanent relics and were qualified to send people in. If they could get strategic treasures and resources from the permanent relics, it would be an excellent opportunity for the dragon gods. Of course, Luo Xiao did not say this. After all, he was not the decision-maker, so it was useless to say it or not. Even if he told Kong Shin-mu and let Kong Shin-mu have the idea of exploring the permanent relics, if the higher-ups did not approve, there was no other way. While Luo Xiao was deep in thought, a voice suddenly rang out. Kong Shin-mu had completely resisted the white flame surging out of the stone box and continued to hover to the top of the stone pillar to see what kind of treasure was placed in the stone box. But very quickly, Kong Shin-mu's divine dragon eyes darkened. There's nothing in this stone box. Kong Shin-mu dispelled his divine dragon form, and the black smog of devouring power that enveloped his body immediately dissipated. One could see that he was a little depressed and helpless. What? Luo Xiao, Xiao Bai, and the other two were stunned. They transformed into their mystical dragon forms and flew towards Kong Shin-mu. Luo Xiao observed carefully. He was sure that Kong Shin-mu did not take anything out of the stone box. But when they circled above the stone pillar and the stone box, they realized that the stone box was empty. At the bottom of the stone box, there was a flame diagram. That white flame was the attack that had surged out from the diagram. This stone box is a trap? Kong Shin-mu was disappointed. It's still possible. Luo Xiao spoke with his rich experience. He smiled bitterly and said, there are even some supreme ruins that only contain traps and no treasures. These supreme ruins are all similar to tombs prepared by supreme powerhouses for themselves. The situation inside is completely related to those supreme powerhouses themselves. It's very normal for there to be traps without treasures. I've encountered it a few times. He was considered experienced, so he was more open-minded about such situations. After all, he had been disappointed before, so he would not be more disappointed. However, Kong Shin-mu was quite puzzled. He had resisted the white flame with great difficulty, only to find that there was nothing in the stone box. This was definitely a depressing feeling. However, he quickly adjusted his mentality and threw the matter of the stone box to the back of his mind. Very soon, he planned on what to do next. At this moment, he saw that the flame diagram in the stone box suddenly seemed to come to life. It shrunk and engraved itself on Kong Shin-mu's dead demon fire ring. Originally, the flame diagram was not small and had a radius of several feet. However, the flame diagram had shrunk to an extremely small state and engraved itself on Kong Shin-mu's dead demon fire ring. Kong Shin-mu and the 4 people around him were shocked. What was going on? This treasure is a flame diagram? Luo Xiao, who was experienced, immediately guessed. This flame diagram doesn't seem to be able to exist independently. It must rely on something. Brother Zhang successfully opened the stone box and blocked the attack of the white flame. Therefore, this flame diagram can be attached to Brother Zhang's item. Perhaps we can also guess that only the treasures left behind in this supreme relic can be attached to this flame diagram. According to the usual practice, the necromancy demonic fire ring that Brother Zhang obtained might have become even more powerful after being strengthened by this flame diagram. Kong Xinmu nodded slowly when he heard Luo Zhao's guess. He gave it a try and activated the power of the dead demon fire ring. He discovered that the power of the dead demon fire ring had been greatly enhanced. The dead demon fire ring was originally able to burn the opponent's soul. Now, the effect of the flames released by the ring to burn the opponent's soul had been enhanced. It had at least doubled. Moreover, it could condense into a white flame with a power similar to the one that had gushed out of the stone box. In other words, Jiang Shenwu could kill many 4th-level martial emperors with just this dead soul's demonic fire ring. Moreover, he could easily kill them. Unfortunately, Kong Xinmu discovered that the power of the flames released by the dead demon fire ring was fixed. This was because he didn't need to use his own power to activate the power of the dead demon fire ring. His devouring power couldn't increase the power of the dead demon fire ring. However, perhaps I can devour more fire attribute power in battle to increase the power of the dead demon fire ring? Kong Xinmu thought to himself. After obtaining the flame diagram, the power of the dead demon fire ring had been enhanced. It could be imagined that its power could be enhanced in more ways. Methods similar to the flame diagram had long been lost in the Dragon God clan. Even the dragon warriors of the Dragon God clan had never obtained it. There was no need to think too much about it. However, the power of the flames that Kong Xinmu devoured seemed to be able to be enhanced by the dead demon fire ring. Chapter 47-31. Kong Xinmu had even higher expectations for this supreme relic. The heaven-deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire had its own system of inheritance. According to the demonic god ancestor, the ancient heaven-deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire could devour other people's time. This kind of ability sounded heaven-defying, and the necromancy demon fire ring that Jiang Shenwu had come into contact with should be a type of flame power. This kind of flame power could burn the opponent's soul. It was extremely lethal. For Kong Xinmu, it could make up for his weakness in attack. Right now, his 9-stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Blast had yet to be cultivated to the highest stage, so its power was far from its peak. If he wanted to break through to the peak of the highest stage, he would need a very long time, and he would also need a large amount of cultivation resources. Of course, if someone cultivated the 9th Extreme Tao Hui Dragon Blast, Kong Xinmu could try to devour their power and let them teach him. However, Jiang Shenwu did not want everyone to know about this method of cultivation improvement. Hence, in the great world of the dragon gods, he would not be so obvious as to find someone to let him devour the power of the dragon martial arts. Therefore, Kong Xinmu couldn't improve his dragon technique as fast as before. Under such circumstances, Kong Xinmu could get the power and treasures left by the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of ice and fire, which could make up for what he lacked. The first was time, and the second was destructive power. The devouring power was very strong, but because it was a devouring power, it lacked some destructive power when fighting against opponents of the same realm. Its direct power was a little weak, and the most important thing was that it didn't have a dragon technique to support it. It seemed that the main method of the chaotic sky devouring dragon was to devour. Even if there were some dragon techniques, it wasn't something that Kong Xinmu could cultivate. Kong Xinmu's current strength was still too low for the chaotic sky devouring dragon. There were many things that Kong Xinmu couldn't inherit. Moreover, Kong Xinmu still had some doubts about the existence of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. He didn't plan to find out more about its strength for the time being, for fear of bringing more danger to himself. Although he was restricted by the demon god ancestor's consciousness, Kong Xinmu still did not dare to completely trust the black dragon's consciousness. Kong Xinmu put away the necromancy demonic fire ring. The power of the dead demonic fire ring was definitely his trump card. Its power was more powerful and overbearing than the 9-stage extreme Tao Hui dragon explosion that he had cultivated to the 4th stage. It would be easier for him to kill people with it. Then he led Xiaobai, Luo Xiao, and the other two to the next space. They opened the stone door and entered the passage behind it. This passage was the same as before. It was slightly narrow for the dragon warrior's divine dragon form. They could only fly through it in human form. They didn't meet any opponents from other races along the way until they arrived at the next space. This was a space filled with the power of ice. When they arrived near this space, Kong Shinmu and the others felt an incomparably cold aura flowing rapidly in front of them. The 5 of them rushed forward and were constantly on guard against any possible dangers around them. Then, they entered a vast underground space. This was a space that contained ice treasures. However, the competition here was much smaller than the first space they had arrived at. This was because there were only 2 other races in front of them. As soon as they entered this ice space, Kong Shinmu felt the aura of the demon god race and the sea god race. There were a total of 30 people from the demon god race and 20 people from the sea god race. Kong Shinmu had expected that these 2 races would have opponents here. When he felt the aura of the demon god race, Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes and quickly observed the scene. There was still no sign of the evil prince. The evil prince was not present. This made Kong Shinmu heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was a little disappointed. After all, he really wanted to get rid of the evil prince once and for all. However, the other party was not present. There was nothing he could do. At this moment, there were 4 cultivators from each race. They were facing each other in the center of the ice space. Under such circumstances, Kong Shinmu and the others arrived. There was an ice sculpture in the center of this ice space. There seemed to be a ring in the center of this ice sculpture. That's one of the rings left behind by the heavenly deficient ice-fire demonic dragon. Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes. He guessed that there were many types of rings left behind by the heavenly deficient ice-fire demonic dragon. The necromancy demonic fire ring was one of them. Other types of rings might have special effects, but Kong Shinmu did not know how many types of rings there were. There were many treasures in this supreme relic. This special ring was one of them. Kong Shinmu guessed that it was an extremely important one. There is a symbol on the ice sculpture. It's similar to the symbol on the necromancy demonic fire ring, but it's different. It must symbolize the ring in the center of the ice sculpture. Luo Xiao guessed in a low voice. Different symbols symbolized different types of power. The arrival of Jiang Shenwu's group of 5 made the 4 disciples of the Demon God clan and the 4 disciples of the Sea God clan extremely nervous. They looked at them with vigilance. At this moment, the disciples of the Sea God race and the Demon God race were in full battle mode. The Demon God race had transformed into their Demon God forms. The Sea God totem appeared behind the disciples of the Sea God race. They looked ready to fight. The arrival of Kong Shinmu and the others eased the tension a little. Things were much more complicated now that the 3 parties were fighting. Those who could make it to this level should not be too weak. Kong Shinmu did not become arrogant because he had obtained the necromancy demonic fire ring. He was still vigilant and began to observe the situation. If the genius of the Sea God race, Wei Mengtian, fought with Luo Xiao one-on-one, he would definitely be able to suppress Luo Xiao. Among the disciples of the Demon God race and the Sea God race, although there were no experts on the level of the Evil Prince or Wei Mengtian, there were existences on the same level as Luo Xiao. In other words, the 3 parties were not weak. If they really fought, if the 2 parties joined forces, Kong Shinmu and the others might not be able to stop the other party. After all, the other party had 8 people, while Kong Shinmu and the others only had 5. Apart from Kong Shinmu, Luo Xiao, and Xiao Bai, the remaining 2 dragon martial artists of the Gu family might have to join forces to stop one of them. Chapter 47-32. Therefore, Kong Shinmu was still under a lot of pressure. If the demon gods and the sea god showed any signs of joining forces, Kong Shinmu had to make the first move. At the very least, he had to kill 2 of them as fast as lightning. Yo, my friends from the Dragon Gods clan. A wolf demon of the demon god race transformed into a huge, pitch-black wolf. This wolf demon had 2 pitch-black wings on its back. It was the legacy bloodline of the Eventide flying wolf, and it could transform into the body of an Eventide flying wolf. His voice was a little hoarse as he spoke. Then his attention shifted to Kong Shinmu and the others. How do we open this ice sculpture? Kong Shinmu didn't say anything else. He just looked at the ice sculpture in the center and asked calmly. His straightforward question surprised the demon gods and the sea gods. They didn't expect Kong Shinmu to be so direct. However, the disciples of the sea gods and the demon gods sneered. How would they know how to open the ice sculpture? Even if they knew, they couldn't tell the dragon gods. At this time, Kong Shinmu suddenly said, "We just came from a space filled with fire energy and obtained a dead demon fire ring." As he spoke, he let the dead spirit demonic fire ring fly up and circle around his dragon head, emitting wisps of white dead spirit demonic fire. Seeing the dead demon fire ring, the eyes of the sea gods and the demon gods lit up. Obviously, they were very interested in the dead demon fire ring. Kong Shinmu said, "The fire crystal in which the dead demon fire ring is located was opened because there were more than 16 people in that space. Before that, the fire crystal was protected by a supreme power. No one could open it. I wonder if the ice sculpture in front of you is the same? We only have 15 people now. We are just short of one person. Shouldn't we calm down and wait for the others to come?" Kong Shinmu's words surprised Luo Xiao and Xiao Bai, but they didn't show it on the surface. The 8 from the Demon God clan and the Sea God clan looked at each other and nodded slightly. They felt that what Kong Shinmu said was credible. After all, they were veterans who had explored some supreme ruins. However, since these people were veterans, they naturally knew that there were only 3 passageways leading to this space. The other people that they had come from had already been completely dealt with by them. It was impossible for anyone else to come. Even if they waited any longer, it was impossible for a new batch of people to come. Of course, on the surface, they all felt that what Kong Shinmu said made sense. The Dark Knight Flying Wolf Demon God Tribe disciple said evilly, "In that case, there are still 2 Demon God Tribe disciples behind us. How about we wait for them to come over?" "Sure." An expert from the Sea God tribe nodded in agreement. However, it was clear that there was a murderous intent in the depths of his eyes. He didn't intend to wait any longer. He would attack when no one was paying attention. As for who he would attack, there was no need to say more. The Demon God tribe and the 4 from the Sea God tribe were equal in strength. As for the newcomers from the Dragon God tribe, the 5 of them weren't famous. In addition, before entering the Supreme Ruins, they had already discussed a deal with the Dragon God tribe together. The key was that 100 people from the Dragon God tribe had entered. If the other clans didn't join forces, they would definitely be suppressed by the Dragon God tribe. Therefore, there was no need to say more. "That's good. Let's wait here for more people to come. Then we'll decide what to do next." Kong Shinmu nodded. He seemed to have let down some of his guard and said with a smile. However, right at this moment, Kong Shinmu's black dragon body instantly disappeared. Wind shadow flowing cloud flash. Without any hesitation, Kong Shinmu directly burst out the power of space travel and instantly flashed above the sea god totem of a member of the Sea God tribe. This sea god totem was translucent and contained extremely powerful water attribute power. However, as soon as Kong Shinmu teleported over, he released all the power of the dead demon fire ring. White flames poured out at this moment and condensed into 7 white flame lines, instantly entangling that guy's sea god totem. At the same time, 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion. Attack stance. Wind Snow Dragon Pattern Stone. Kong Shinmu didn't stop at all. He operated almost at the same time as the dead demon fire ring. This attack contained his strongest power. 4 dark attribute dragon breaths exploded around the totem of another disciple of the Sea God tribe. The terrifying destructive power almost shattered the surrounding space. Without any warning, Kong Shinmu attacked just like that. Just now, he said that he would wait for more people to come and gather the number of people before doing anything. However, he attacked first. This obviously shocked both the Sea God tribe and the Demon God tribe. This kid from the Dragon God tribe is too sinister, right? They originally planned to attack when the Dragon God tribe was not paying attention, but they were still attacked first. By the time the people of the Sea God tribe and the Demon God tribe reacted, Kong Shinmu's attack had already erupted and descended. With the power of the Necromancy Demon Fire Ring, the 7 thick white flames directly burned the Sea God totem. The endless burning power caused the Sea God totem to be instantly ignited. Countless water attribute powers spontaneously blocked, but they were unable to block the power within. Kong Shinmu's dead demon fire ring had 2 kinds of lethality. The most important was the power to burn the soul. Although the Sea God totem wasn't completely incinerated, a large portion of the Sea God clan's disciples' soul had been incinerated. He was already in an incomparably dazed state and was almost unable to defend himself. On the other side, the expert from the Sea God tribe who was attacked by Kong Shinmu's strongest attack, the ninth extreme dragon explosion, had time to react. Even though he was suddenly attacked, before the sea god totem was completely shattered, he still burst out a water attribute defensive barrier. This barrier delayed his death. However, it only delayed his death. Xiaobai's 99 ice dragon pagodas pressed down. Her reaction was very fast. When she saw Kong Xinmu attack, she immediately cooperated. Following the eruption of the ninth extreme dragon explosion, the power of the ice dragon pagoda suppressing mountains and rivers also descended. The terrifying power of the advanced Holy Spirit dragon shook the entire space. You're courting death. Chapter 47-33. The targets of Kong Xinmu's sneak attack were two sea god tribe disciples. What would the other two sea god tribe disciples think? Did he think that the sea god tribe was easy to bully? The demon god tribe disciples didn't sneak attack them, but attacked the geniuses of the sea god tribe. They were courting death. Most importantly, Jiang Xinwu's sneak attack was actually very effective. With a single burst of power, he actually blasted the two geniuses of the sea god clan away. Their respective sea god totems were directly blasted full of holes. The dense white flames from the necromancy demon fire ring turned into flaming white snakes that wrapped around the sea god totem, directly burning the soul of the sea god clan disciple. Without the slightest ability to resist, the sea god totem was almost completely destroyed. The other person was facing the joint attack of Kong Xinmu and Xiaobai. Terrifying power exploded around the sea god totem. Even though he used a strong defensive method, he was still suppressed by Kong Xinmu and Xiaobai. He was seriously injured and fell down the space. This guy might not die directly, but he had lost the ability to fight for a short period of time. He could be ignored for the time being. Then, Kong Xinmu felt many attacks sweeping towards him. He immediately used the sunset shadow and flashed towards the place where Xiaobai and Luo Xiao were. He escaped from the direction of the attacks. How is this possible? So fast. Everyone was shocked once again. Just now, when Jiang Xinwu used the wind shadow flowing cloud flash for the first time, everyone was not surprised, because they were all emperor-level cultivators of the various races, and they also had the ability to shuttle through the void. This was a relatively normal ability. But Kong Xinmu could travel through the void again in such a short period of time. This was extremely difficult. How could there be someone who could continuously use void travel? It must be known that even if Kong Xinmu cultivated the sunset shadow flowing flash to the Saint tier under normal circumstances, it would still be impossible for him to continuously travel through the void in such a short period of time. However, on one hand, he had devoured the power of the sunset shadow flowing flash from Linghu Dai and on the other hand, he had also cultivated a support inheritance, the void energy inheritance. The combination of these two factors allowed Kong Xinmu's understanding of space to surpass any of his peers and those of the same cultivation level. These people in front of him had never imagined that Kong Xinmu could continuously shuttle through space in such a short period of time. In this way, Kong Xinmu would be extremely difficult to deal with. In the next moment, they changed their direction and launched an attack towards Kong Xinmu's current position. But when their attacks were about to descend, Kong Xinmu once again erupted with the wind shadow streak. Not only did he teleport through space, he even brought the other four people beside him along with him. Moreover, this time, their figures were hidden in the void. For a moment, they did not appear in the surrounding area. They had actually hidden themselves. This scene caused the surrounding disciples of the Demon God Clan and Sea God Clan to turn pale. They looked at each other in dismay. Disappeared? That fellow could actually disappear? This ability, was it some kind of concealment ability? The four people from the Demon God Clan constantly observed their surroundings. At this time, they thought of an ability that came from the Nightmare Ink Beast. However, even the royal family of the Demon God Clan might not be able to find a Nightmare Ink Beast to fuse with. How could this kid from the Dragon God Clan have one? In fact, Kong Xinmu did indeed have the ability to fuse with a Nightmare Ink Beast. Of course, he did not use this ability now. He only used the Sunset Shadow Streak to create an alternate space. The alternate space-time tablet, a heaven-grade spectral weapon, was silently used by him to create an alternate space hidden in the void. All five of them hid within it. It was as if they did not belong to this time and space. They were completely concealed. Following that, Kong Xinmu brought Luo Xiao and Xiaobai with him. Under the protection of the Nightmare Ink Beast's concealment ability, They left this alternate space. He did not remove this alternate space for the time being because he still needed to rely on it to protect the two juniors of the Gu family. The two descendants of the Gu family were now completely dumbfounded. In fact, when Kong Shinmu launched his sneak attack, they were already prepared for battle. However, they did not expect that Kong Shinmu did not intend to let them participate in this battle. He directly hid them. What was going on? He was looking down on them. However, they also knew their own capabilities. At this time, they absolutely did not dare to act rashly. Although Jiang Xunwu had somewhat underestimated them, at the same time, he also wanted to protect them from being harmed by the other party. The two juniors of the Gu family felt conflicted. They had a unique feeling towards Kong Shinmu's domineering attitude. At this time, Kong Shinmu brought Luo Xiao and Xiaobai with him. Under the concealment of the Nightmare Ink Beast, the three of them silently left the alternate space. Then, they rushed towards a lone demon god tribe disciple as fast as they could. When they got close, they immediately exploded with their strongest attacks. Luo Xiao's Starry Sky Vortex, Xiaobai's 99 Ice Dragon Pagodas, and Kong Shinmu's 9-stage Ultimate Roaring Dragon Burst exploded at this instant. A terrifying power instantly appeared. The demon god tribe disciple had transformed into a huge green-tusked pig, but at this time, he became the best target. The three's attacks landed directly on the green-tusked pig's body. Although its defense had reached a certain level, it was still unable to withstand the combined attacks of the three. In particular, Kong Shinmu's devouring power followed and quickly devoured the defensive means that the demon god tribe disciple had used. In just a moment, the green-tusked pig's body was already seriously injured. At the same time, the others quickly reacted and wanted to surround Kong Shinmu and the other two. However, Kong Shinmu did not fight them head-on. He directly used the wind shadow flowing flash again and flashed to the side, dodging the fierce attacks that swept towards him. This scene made the eyes of the remaining 5 people almost pop out of their sockets. They had already lost 3 people. Although the green-tusked pig and the sea god tribe disciple from before had only been seriously injured and had lost their ability to fight, it was still a great impact on them. Originally, they had thought that if they joined forces, it would be more stable for 8 to fight 5 people. In the end, this situation was instantly destroyed by Kong Shinmu. They did not fight them head-on at all. They only used sneak attacks. With Kong Shinmu's advantage of constantly using the wind shadow flowing flash, these people could not do anything to Kong Shinmu's group at all. Don't panic. Even if this kid's talent is outstanding, he is destined to be a 4th-level Emperor-level inheritance. As for his cultivation, he is only at the 5th-level Samsara realm. Chapter 47-34. That was common sense. Many cultivators had limited energy in their bodies, especially in an intense battle. Their energy would not recover so quickly. Now, Jiang Xunwu had used the wind shadow flowing cloud flash several times in 3 different directions. This was a method that especially consumed his own strength. Although it was very powerful, the pressure was immense. The 5 people present guessed that Jiang Xunwu would soon exhaust all his strength and no longer have the strength to continue fighting. Just as they expected, Kong Shinmu had exhausted a lot of his energy. However, he had the ability to devour. He had devoured all the energy he had used when he attacked the green-tusked pig demon god. This meant that Kong Shinmu was at his peak. It was naive to think that he could fight a protracted battle with Kong Shinmu. It was absolutely impossible. Kong Shinmu even welcomed a protracted battle with him because it would be his home ground. At that moment, Kong Shinmu continued to hide with Luo Xiao and Xiaobai. The other party could not detect their location for the time being, so they could only gather together. However, due to mutual suspicion, the 2 sea god tribesmen and the 3 demon god tribesmen gathered separately. After all, they belonged to different races. Who knew if they would stab each other in the back at a critical moment? It was hard to say, so it was better to split up. Therefore, the 3 and 2 people gathered together in a back-to-back formation. They were constantly on guard against their surroundings. Moreover, the demon god tribesman with the Dark Night Wolf Goblin immediately used some sort of detection technique to find the location of Kong Shinmu and the other 2. Obviously, that genius's detection technique was very strong. As long as he spent some time, Kong Shinmu's Nightmare Beast's concealment technique would not be able to hide from the other party. Therefore, Kong Shinmu could not give the other party such time. Otherwise, once he was exposed, he would be at a disadvantage against the three of them. Kong Shinmu unleashed the power of the necromancy demon fire ring as fast as he could. 7 white flames surrounded the 3 demon god tribe disciples. The flames of the necromancy demon fire ring could burn one's soul, causing different levels of damage to one's soul. Although he was attacking all 3 of them at the same time, Kong Shinmu was not disappointed. He had successfully entangled the souls of the 3 demon god tribe disciples, causing a powerful effect. The 3 disciples of the demon god clan immediately felt as though their souls were being burned. They were in agony. Furthermore, they couldn't defend against this technique. They tried to use their own techniques to resist the corrosion of the white flames, but it was a pity that their efforts were futile. Of course, the effects of the dead spirit demonic fire ring wouldn't be that strong if it attacked all 3 at once. It wouldn't be able to kill all 3 demon god clan disciples. However, this was the effect that Kong Shinmu wanted. He didn't want to kill them. He just wanted to buy time and divert the attention of the 2 sea god tribe disciples. As expected, when the necromancy demonic fire ring condensed a dense white necromancy demonic fire that wrapped around the 3 demon god clan disciples, the 2 sea god clan disciples immediately rushed over to help. In their opinion, Kong Shinmu's current strategy was to concentrate their strength and kill as many as they could. They wanted to weaken their combined strength as much as possible. Therefore, since the necromancy demon fire ring had attacked the 3 demon god tribe disciples, it was very likely that Kong Shinmu would target the 3 demon god tribe disciples. Therefore, they rushed over to support them in an attempt to stop Kong Shinmu's encirclement of the 3 demon god tribe disciples. Unfortunately, they had guessed Kong Shinmu's intentions wrongly. Kong Shinmu appeared halfway with Xiao Bai and Luo Xiao. He unexpectedly intercepted the 2 sea god tribe disciples. While the 3 demon god tribe disciples were still entangled by the necromancy demon fire ring, he launched an attack on the 2 sea god tribe disciples. A terrifying power erupted at this moment. Kong Shinmu even waved his hand and shattered the alternate dimension nearby. The 2 Gu family juniors appeared in front of everyone. Seeing this situation, how could the 2 Gu family juniors not understand Kong Shinmu's intentions? They quickly launched their strongest attacks at the 2 sea god tribe disciples. The result of 5 people besieging 2 was obvious. Moreover, Kong Shinmu, Xiao Bai, and Luo Xiao's lethality was not weak to begin with. At this moment, the 2 sea god tribe disciples were instantly injured. They did not have time to fully deploy their defensive methods, causing them to suffer unexpected injuries. Their sea god totems were both damaged, riddled with scars from the bombardment of the berserk power in practically an instant. Both of them retreated, their complexions extremely unsightly. They were seriously injured. It was too difficult for them to continue fighting. They were definitely not a match for Kong Shinmu and the other 2. Let's go! The 2 disciples of the Sea God clan didn't want to fight at all. After all, their lives were the most important. Hence, they turned around and flew down directly. They helped the disciple of the Sea God clan who was seriously injured at the beginning, and flew toward the exit of the passageway together. Logically speaking, if they wanted to escape, Kong Shinmu would not find trouble with them. However, Kong Shinmu was not at ease. Who knew if these guys would suddenly come back and attack them while they were fighting the demon god tribe? Therefore, while the 3 demon god tribe disciples were still entangled by the dead spirit demonic fire rings, Kong Shinmu planned to kill all 3 injured sea god tribe disciples. He would not give them a chance. Of course, although the 3 sea god tribe disciples were injured, their sea god tribe combat weapons were completely unleashed. All kinds of defensive methods were deployed around them, completely enveloping their respective sea god totems. Kong Shinmu led the 4 people to chase after them. Using the wind shadow flowing cloud flash, they flashed to the escape route of the 3 sea god tribe disciples. You're going too far. The 3 sea god tribe disciples did not expect that Kong Shinmu would not let them go even if they wanted to escape. He actually chased after them. Suddenly, the 3 of them looked extremely ferocious. They were not in a state where they were unprepared. Although they were seriously injured, they were even more vigilant and more stable. Their bodies were filled with the power of the sea god's inheritance. A defensive barrier erupted around them. They believed that in this state, Kong Shinmu would definitely not be able to quickly break through their defense. In fact, that was indeed the case. However, that was under normal circumstances. Now, Kong Shinmu did not need to break through their defense at all. Dead Spirit Demonic Fire Rings. Chapter 47-35. The ability of the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring was really useful. Jiang Xinwu had even become somewhat reliant on this ability. That was because this ability was aimed directly at the soul, making it impossible for others to block it. Only opponents who had cultivated some special defensive techniques would be able to defend against such an attack. Moreover, they might not be able to completely block it. This was because the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring was extremely powerful, and after Kong Xinmu had strengthened the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring with the Flame Array diagram, the attack of the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring was divided into two parts. One part was aimed at burning the soul, and the other part was like an ordinary fire element attack, demonic and terrifying, burning everything and everything. The attacks from both sides broke out at almost the same time, making it impossible for the opponent to resist. The power of Kong Xinmu's Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring turned into the White Necromancy Demonic Fire, and directly entangled the three disciples of the Sea God clan. Now the three disciples of the Sea God clan used their combat weapons and burst out with all their defensive power. Unfortunately, they could only block less than 30% of the Necromancy Demonic Fire's soul-burning ability. The remaining 70% of the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring's power directly penetrated all their defensive methods and fell on them. Although it was split into 30%, their souls were still burned, and their faces became somewhat ferocious. Three huge sea god totems condensed behind them. At this moment, the waves were surging, blocking the burning power of the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring, but it could do nothing about the erosion of the soul. If they didn't have any other means, then they wouldn't be able to escape from Kong Xinmu's fatal situation this time. But, at this time, they were not willing to be captured without putting up a fight. When the souls of the three disciples of the Sea God clan were about to be burned by the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring, one of them finally gritted his teeth and decided to use his trump card. It was also a fire element ring, which was activated from his body. This fire element ring was similar to the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring, but its power was different from the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring. It could be felt that this fire element ring and the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring came from the same source, and they were even made at the same time and used by the same expert. A terrifying power burst out in an instant, turning into a demonic blue flame. These waves of demonic blue flames enveloped and protected the three Sea God clan disciples. Kong Xinmu felt that the power of his Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring had suddenly encountered a formidable opponent. Amazing! As expected, they also have similar treasures on them. They must have obtained them during the previous exploration. Kong Xinmu narrowed his eyes. However, for the disciples of the Sea God clan, they don't dare to casually use such a treasure. After all, they are afraid that this treasure will directly recognize a master. If that happens, they will be punished after they leave. Not only will they not have any contribution points, but they will also have their contribution points deducted. After all, this treasure is extremely valuable. Once it recognizes a master, its value will be greatly reduced. Luo Xiao said quickly. In his words, he was very envious of Kong Xinmu. After all, Kong Xinmu was fighting for his own sake. It seemed that he only needed to be responsible for the Gu family, and did not need to hand over the things to the Five Extremes Dark Ice Holy Land and the Dragon Gods clan. Therefore, Kong Xinmu could use the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring directly. Treasures of this level were generally not owned by juniors. Even if they obtained it, they would take it out and offer it to the higher-ups of the Dragon Gods clan. This kind of treasure was not a strategic level treasure, but it was still very obvious to improve one's combat power. However, for practitioners of their level, using this kind of treasure was still a bit of a waste. This kind of treasure was called a sacred treasure of heaven and earth. Sacred treasures of heaven and earth were also divided into many different grades. For example, the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring could be used by any race. Although it was of a relatively low grade, its power was absolutely powerful for a dragon martial artist at the level of Kong Xinmu. In a general sense, the so-called strategic level treasure was one of the sacred treasures of heaven and earth. However, it was the highest grade of sacred treasures of heaven and earth. Now, instead of using a sacred treasure of heaven and earth, Kong Xinmu would rather have 2 more heaven-level Saint Spirit dragon weapons. This way, his combat power would be even stronger. Although the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring looked very strong, the increase in Kong Xinmu's strength would not increase the power of the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring. Moreover, This was also because opponents of this level basically had no means to defend against soul attacks. Otherwise, the necromancy demonic fire ring would not be able to produce such a miraculous effect. At this moment, the Sea God clan disciple took out a similar sacred treasure of heaven and earth. It was also a flame ring, but it was a sacred treasure of heaven and earth that bloomed with blue flames. It seemed to be a match for the necromancy demonic fire ring. The blue flames condensed by this ring had a demonic color and also a demonic ability. It seemed to be able to burn space. This ability was no weaker than the power of the necromancy demonic fire ring. At this moment, the waves of blue flames directly surrounded the three Sea God clan disciples, burning the space around them until there was nothing left. It actually burned out a layer of void barrier. This layer of void barrier was completely void. The void of void barrier completely blocked the necromancy demonic fire ring's attack, so the necromancy demonic fire ring could not burn their souls at all. Amazing! Kong Shin-mu could not help but exclaim. He did not expect his opponent to be hiding such a trump card. It was too strong. It was beyond his expectations. His opponent isolated space and created a void barrier. Even the necromancy demonic fire ring could not touch his opponent's soul. It was equivalent to creating an absolute defensive barrier. This absolute defensive barrier came from the void ability of the heaven-deficient ice and fire demonic dragon. As a supreme existence, his understanding of the void was definitely more than 100 times or even 1,000 times better than everyone else present. Therefore, based on Kong Shin-mu's understanding of the power of the void, he would not be able to break through his opponent's void barrier. This was going to be tricky. Kong Shin-mu immediately retracted the power of the necromancy demonic fire ring. At the same time, he saw that the three demon gods in the distance had also woken up. After he used the power of the necromancy demonic fire ring to deal with the Sea God clan disciples, the demon gods naturally lost their ability to attack. The power of the necromancy demonic fire ring could not directly attack so many people. Therefore, the situation for Kong Shin-mu and the others had become a little tricky. 3 demon gods and 3 Sea God clan disciples. Although the 3 Sea God clan disciples were seriously injured, they had already used their sacred treasures of heaven and earth with blue flames. That was an extremely powerful existence. If they were used to attack Kong Shin-mu and the others, they might not be able to withstand it. The situation had become very tense. Chapter 47-36. The golden flames contained terrifying power. When the golden flames appeared, Kong Shin-mu had a feeling that he had never felt before. That was, the golden flame seemed to be able to burn his senses. Kong Shin-mu felt that when the dark wolf demon disciple took out the golden flame ring, the golden flames directly burned around him. He couldn't feel the temperature of the golden flames, but he found that the golden flames were gradually occupying his field of vision. Not only did it occupy his field of vision, but it also began to burn his hearing, his sight, his sense of touch, his sense of smell and his senses. The golden flames could burn the 5 senses of a cultivator, and even the perception of the soul. In an instant, Kong Shin-mu found that he could no longer feel anything. Looking around, he could only see the golden flames. The surrounding room, Luo Xiao, Xiao Bai, the Demon God Clan, the Sea God Clan, the Dead Soul Demon Fire Ring, the Blue Flame Ring of the Void. Everything disappeared from Kong Shin-mu's eyes. This made Kong Shin-mu completely vigilant. If the other party attacked him at this time, how could he react? He couldn't react at all, and he was afraid that he would die in a daze. This was because he couldn't even feel the pain in his body. What were the surrounding enemies doing now? He had no idea. Devour. Kong Shin-mu could only burst out his final strength, the devouring power. When this power burst out, a black devouring power suddenly appeared in the golden flames. This black devouring power spread at an extremely fast speed and soon tore a hole in the surrounding golden world. The devouring power was still the strongest. Kong Shin-mu increasingly felt that the power of the chaotic heaven devouring dragon was simply invincible in history. No matter what it was, it could devour and transform it into its own strength. It was too terrifying. When he tore a hole in the golden flame world, like a canvas being torn apart, he found that the 3 demon god clan disciples were indeed approaching under the lead of the dark wolf demon. The enemy wanted to kill Kong Shin-mu right away. However, Kong Shin-mu had subconsciously used the divine dragon tyrant body art's defensive stance. His tyrannical defense prevented his opponent from killing Kong Shin-mu immediately. On the other hand, Xiaobai, Luo Xiao, and the other two were protected by Kong Xinmu. They had also fallen into a world of golden flames. They had lost all senses and could not sense any situation or power in the outside world. If the demon god tribe had killed them first, they would have been dead by now without any ability to resist. However, the demon gods had chosen Kong Xinmu as their first target. Then they were destined to return without any success. The Dark Wolf Demon led the two demon god clan disciples to attack Kong Xinmu. However, after each of their attacks, they realized that they could not kill Kong Xinmu. Although they had injured Kong Xinmu's physical defense was too strong. This surprised the Dark Wolf Demon, but he did not feel that there was anything wrong. He activated the power of the Golden Flame Spatial Ring and burned away all the senses that did not belong to the Demon God clan. Therefore, he believed that he had enough time to attack Kong Xinmu. However, he did not expect that after he attacked Kong Xinmu once, the world of golden flames in front of Kong Xinmu cracked. Then, as if it had been torn apart, waves of pitch-black power emerged. This pitch-black and terrifying power directly tore the world of golden flames apart, causing Kong Xinmu's divine dragon eyes to open. His gaze fell directly on the Night Wolf Demon. How is this possible? The Dark Wolf Demon had used his ultimate trump card, but it had not been able to trap Kong Xinmu for long. Kong Xinmu had broken free. How was this possible? It was unbelievable. The Dark Wolf Demon and the other two Demon God clan disciples could not believe what they were seeing. They retreated, their faces filled with shock. They could not believe that this was real. However, Kong Xinmu had awakened from the state of his senses being burned. Moreover, he looked behind him at Luo Xiao, Xiaobai, and the three Sea God clan disciples. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Now, everyone's senses had been burned away. Under the burning of the golden flames, no one could sense what was happening outside. There were only 3 Demon God clan disciples left, and Kong Xinmu planned to kill all of them. He had to kill them all and snatch the golden flame space rings. Kong Xinmu felt that these rings were a set. If he could gather all of them, he would undoubtedly be able to unleash more power. Therefore, he had no intention of holding back. It was true that the other party had the golden flame space rings, and the Sea God clan had the blue flame void ring. These 2 sacred items were very powerful, but Kong Xinmu also had a trump card that no one could have imagined. Of course, if Kong Xinmu was given enough time, he could use his devouring power to devour everyone present to death. However, he did not have that much time. He could not give the other party any chance to struggle. Anyway, no one could see them now. Therefore, he decided to use his ultimate trump card. The so-called ultimate trump card was naturally the kind of move that could not be revealed until the last moment. For Kong Xinmu, even the devouring power could be used, because the other party might not be able to detect anything. However, he could not expose his Demon God clan inheritance and void power inheritance in front of others no matter what. Absolutely not. Therefore, this was his ultimate trump card. The ultimate trump card might not be stronger than the devouring power, but if you wanted to kill someone, it would definitely be much faster than the devouring power. 6-winged heavenly demon god body. Kong Xinmu broke free from the golden flame space ring senses and burned the world. He glanced at the Dark Wolf Demon and suddenly released the aura of the Demon God clan. The body of the 6-winged heavenly demon god burst out and descended on the battlefield. The Dark Night Wolf Demon and the other 2 Demon God tribe disciples with perceptive abilities were flabbergasted by this shocking scene. What was going on? The Demon God clan? How could a member of the Dragon God clan suddenly transform into a member of the Demon God clan? Could it be that the Dragon God clan was disguised as a member of the Demon God clan? This was impossible. For a moment, the 3 Demon God clan disciples were so shocked that their brains almost stopped working. They completely did not understand what was going on. This supreme relic clearly had nothing to do with the Demon God clan, but this guy in front of them. Chapter 47-37. The Dark Wolf Goblin could not understand, and neither could the other 2 Demon God clan disciples. They were so shocked that they lost their ability to think. However, right after that, Jiang Shenwu unleashed an incomparably terrifying technique. Void-tearing void demonic blade. Void-tearing demonic blade rain. This was a top-notch desolate god demonic weapon from the little princess of the demon god race, Xueqi. At this moment, An incomparably terrifying power erupted from it. Endless demonic chi descended from the sky, condensing into a rain of saber light and sword light, shrouding the three demon god race disciples. What? It's really a technique of the demon god clan. The dark wolf goblin and the other two demon god clan disciples heaved a sigh of relief. They thought that they had fallen into an illusion or something, but they discovered that they were not. Kong Shinmu had really displayed a technique of the demon god clan, and even used a heaven-grade desolate god demonic weapon. This scene shocked them, but the heaven-grade desolate god demonic weapon did not look too strong, and they were completely able to resist it. Therefore, they heaved a sigh of relief. But at the same time they were extremely vigilant, because they knew very well that no matter how this guy did it, a dragon martial artist who could transform into the body of a demon god was a top secret. Was this guy a spy that the demon god clan had planted in the dragon god clan? Or was he a spy that the dragon god clan had planned to send to the demon god clan? In any case, they seemed to have caught a glimpse of a secret, and once this secret was exposed, it meant that Kong Shinmu had the intention to kill them. The Space Ren Devil Blade rain formation was activated. A wave of devil energy swept out. This was a large-scale attack. Not only did it envelop the three demon god clan disciples, it also enveloped the three sea god clan disciples. Unfortunately, the three sea god clan disciples subconsciously hid within the protection of the blue void flame ring. The defense of the void barrier was very strong, and other than the devouring power, Kong Shinmu could not think of any other way to break through the defense. Kong Shinmu's demon god tribe's legacy was slightly weaker, so the space-tearing demonic saber rain he released couldn't directly kill the three demon god tribe disciples. But then, Kong Shinmu threw out the heavenly demon bead. Countless black beads burst forth and trapped one of the demon god clan disciples, isolating him from the other two. Save me! The demon god tribe disciple unleashed all his defensive techniques and subconsciously called for help from the Dark Night Wolf demon. The golden flame spatial ring on the Dark Night Wolf demon's hand once again erupted with golden flames, attempting to burn Kong Shinmu's five senses and all his senses. However, Kong Shinmu was prepared this time. He completely enveloped himself with his devouring power and protected himself. Once the golden flames got close, they were completely devoured by the devouring power. Alright. Kong Shinmu knew that time was up. He immediately unleashed the power of the golden flames that he had just devoured. He could return the power he had devoured untouched. This was one of his trump cards. The Dark Night Wolf demon didn't expect Kong Shinmu to have this trick up his sleeve. It was waiting for him to activate the power of the Golden Flame Spatial Ring. After devouring the power of the Golden Flame Spatial Ring twice, Kong Shinmu unleashed the power of the Golden Flames instead. It directly enveloped the Dark Night Wolf demon and the two demon god tribe disciples, instantly burning their five senses and senses. In an instant, their vision turned into a world of golden flames. They couldn't sense anything else. They immediately unleashed an all-around defense. However, this kind of defense consumed a lot of their energy. If they continued like this, they would run out of energy in no time at all. Kong Shinmu wasn't in a hurry. The Dead Soul's demonic fire ring appeared in his hand again. The white flames directly enveloped the demon god tribe disciple who was trapped by the heavenly demon bead. This time it was a single attack. Moreover, it was an attack on a trapped demon god tribe disciple whose senses had been burned. There was no pressure at all. Soon, the disciple's soul would be completely burned. The Dark Night Wolf demon instinctively wanted to escape. However, Kong Shinmu removed the form of a 16-winged heavenly demon. The image of the Hao Tian virtual Luo totem appeared behind him. This was the inheritance of the power of the void. Heavenly Oasis Disc. Black Hole of Nothingness. Kong Shinmu immediately took out the top-notch heaven-level spectral weapon, the Heavenly Oasis Disc. Then, he used it to display the top-notch divine void technique, Black Hole of Nothingness. This ability was unleashed directly. It was a technique that he had devoured previously. At this moment, a black hole of nothingness appeared in the field. The Dark Night Wolf demon, who wanted to escape, was immediately controlled by the black hole of nothingness. It kept being sucked into the black hole and couldn't escape at all. Moreover, the Dark Night Wolf demon, whose senses had been burned, didn't know what his current condition was. He was like a headless fly that ran around randomly. In the end, he couldn't escape the black hole of nothingness. Void God's Judgment. Immediately after, The image of the Hao Tian virtual Luo totem behind Kong Shinmu stretched out a fist and clenched it across the void. The space around Kong Shinmu suddenly collapsed and folded. Waves of space ripples erupted and swept towards the Dark Night Wolf Demon. The terrifying power of the void folding was not something that the defensive power that the Dark Night Wolf Demon was displaying could withstand. Although Kong Shinmu's inheritance of the power of the void was not too strong, his divine void technique and spectral weapon were top-notch. Moreover, Kong Shinmu had directly devoured the divine void technique, so he naturally had the top-notch understanding of it. This void god's judgment came from Susan Luo. With one move, the Dark Night Wolf Demon, who was completely unaware, was directly devoured by the void crack and instantly fell into it. The Dark Night Wolf Demon died almost without any struggle from the void god's judgment. At this moment, Kong Shinmu finally removed the Hao Tian virtual Luo totem form and transformed into a pitch-black divine dragon again. He quickly flew forward and snatched the golden flame space ring from the Dark Night Wolf Demon's hand before the others regained their senses from the burning state of the golden flame space ring. Kong Shinmu could directly unleash the power of the golden flame space ring. Immediately after, he continued to activate the golden flame space ring and continued to deprive the senses of the 3 members of the Sea God clan and the remaining member of the Demon God clan. At this moment, Xiao Bai, Luo Xiao, and the other 2 members of the Gu family finally regained their senses. Chapter 47-38. The situation in the field really shocked Xiao Bai, Luo Xiao, and the other 3. They had originally thought that after the Dark Wolf Demon of the Demon God clan took out the Ring of Golden Flames and burned their senses, they would most likely die in this wave of attacks. However, when they came to their senses, they saw such a scene in front of them. Kong Shinmu had killed the Dark Wolf Demon, and the other Demon God clan disciple was burned to death by the Dead Soul's demonic fire. Kong Shinmu had obtained the Golden Flame spiritual ring. Other than the Dragon Gods, there were only 3 Sea God clan cultivators and 1 Demon God clan cultivator left. So powerful! What method did Jiang Shenwu use to kill these fellows? The Golden Flame Space Ring's ability to burn one's 5 senses was so terrifying. How did Jiang Shenwu break it? Moreover, he had killed the Dark Knight Demon Wolf in a short time and obtained the Golden Flame Space Ring. At this moment, Kong Shinmu, who controlled the Golden Flame Spiritual Ring, was in control of everything. The Golden Flame Spiritual Ring kept releasing golden flames, burning the remaining Demon God clan disciple and the 3 Sea God clan disciples who were seriously injured. The 3 seriously injured disciples had lost their senses, but they still had their defensive abilities. After all, they had the Blue Flame Spiritual Ring, which could burn space and create a void barrier. Kill this Demon God clan disciple first. Kong Shinmu nodded to Xiao Bai and Luo Xiao. The 3 Sea God clan disciples were a little difficult to deal with, but the remaining Demon God clan disciples' senses had been burned. He couldn't sense anything around him, and he couldn't even feel his own pain. This fellow had already retreated from the center of this space to the edge of the space. He was constantly crashing and crashing against the surrounding ice walls, looking extremely comical. But this comical spectacle of his soon passed away. Jiang Shenwu cooperated with Little White and Luo Xiao to directly attack, exploding with the strongest power to crush and kill. Then, Kong Shinmu asked Luo Xiao, Xiao Bai, and the 2 Gu family disciples to clean up the battlefield. After all, there were still many good things on the battlefield. For example, the Dark Wolf Demon definitely had many Demon God clan soldiers, and they were definitely all top-notch Demon God clan soldiers. These things couldn't improve Kong Shinmu's strength, but they were equivalent to a lot of contribution points and battle merits. All of them added up could be worth thousands of gold dragon coins. As for Jiang Shenwu, he arrived in front of the 3 Sea God clan disciples. Although the 3 disciples of the Sea God tribe had their senses burned, they believed that they were safe because of the protection of the Blue Void Flame Ring. Hence, they hid behind the void barrier and were as steady as a mountain, or rather, as steady as an old dog. They had no intention of moving at all. There was only a golden flame in front of them, and there was nothing else. Jiang Shenwu narrowed his eyes and transformed into a pitch-black divine dragon. The pitch-black devouring power slowly swept out and attacked the 3 disciples of the Sea God clan. He began to try to devour the power of the void barrier. The void barrier was equivalent to nothingness. This was because the Blue Flame Spiritual Ring burned away the space and matter in that space, forming a void. When Kong Shinmu attacked, the void naturally wouldn't be devoured by the devouring power. However, the devouring power had an incomparably unique characteristic, and it could pass through that void. When the devouring power passed through that void, Kong Shin-mu directly controlled it to devour the blue flame energy released by the blue flame spiritual ring. Soon, the blue flame spiritual ring was surrounded by the devouring power. The blue flame couldn't spread to their bodies at all, and it burned out a circle of void. Soon, that layer of void was filled up by the surrounding space, and the 3 Sea God clan disciples, who were strictly protected, finally came into contact with the outside world again. However, the 3 Sea God clan disciples didn't know what was happening to them. They didn't even feel their own pain, and most importantly, they believed that they were very safe, so they fixed themselves in place and didn't move. They completely became live targets for Kong Shin-mu and the others. Kong Shin-mu maintained the golden flame of the golden flame spiritual ring to continuously burn their 5 senses. Then, he exploded with his strongest attack and cooperated with Luo Xiao and Xiao Bai, who rushed over quickly to kill them. This didn't take much time, and soon, only the 5 of them from the Dragon God clan were left in the entire ice space. The others had all died in this ice space. This scene made the 2 juniors of the Gu family feel as if they had encountered an illusion. Wasn't this too easy? Originally, they thought that there would be a fierce battle, and it was very likely that they would die in this battle. In the end, they realized that they had somehow survived, and the 4 people from the Sea God clan and the Demon God clan were actually dead. They even used the heaven and earth sacred items from the supreme relic, a void blue flame ring and a golden flame spiritual ring, but they still couldn't protect them. They didn't see the most important scene, but they guessed that Kong Shin-mu must have used some trump card to save them from the 5 senses burning of the golden flame spiritual ring. Then, they searched all the corpses of the Demon God clan and the Sea God clan and took out all the valuable things. In the end, they gathered at the center of the space and studied the ice sculpture in the center. In the ice sculpture, Kong Shin-mu saw a ring that contained the power of ice. However, this ice sculpture was extremely solid, and the Demon God clan and the Sea God clan were unable to break it in the end. Now, Kong Shin-mu had an idea. He took out the Dead Soul Demon Fire Ring, the Void Blue Flame Ring, and the Golden Flame Spiritual Ring. Then, he released the 3 types of flames, which were white, blue, and golden, and gathered them together to form a tricolored flame. When this tricolored flame appeared, it swept towards the central ice sculpture. As expected, the ice sculpture began to melt under the burning of the tricolored flame. This is an ice attribute ring. Kong Shin-mu's heart skipped a beat. The ice sculpture had not completely melted, but he could already feel the extremely cold aura coming from it. Based on this situation, there must be other heaven and earth sacred items in this supreme relic. What would happen if these rings were gathered together? Chapter 4739. Kong Shin-mu didn't know how many similar rings there were in this supreme relic. But now, he had obtained 4 rings. The 3 fire attribute rings were the Necromancer Fiery Ring, the Blue Void Flame Ring, and the Golden Flame Ethereal Ring. After the 3 fire attribute rings combined their powers to open the ice sculpture, he obtained an ice attribute ring. Kong Shin-mu studied the ice attribute ring for a while, and found that the extremely cold power of the ring had the power to freeze space. The Blue Void Flame Ring has the power to burn space, while this ice attribute ring can freeze space. Jiang Shenwu gave it a try and froze a huge stretch of space in front of him. The ring seemed to be very powerful for defense. He asked Luo Xiao and Xiao Bai to attack the frozen space, but they found it difficult to shatter the extremely cold power. Moreover, the extremely cold power could even freeze the practitioner along with the space, making the practitioner's speed of exertion extremely slow. If Little White was frozen by the power of extreme cold, it would be easy for her to break free. After all, she had the innate power of the ice attribute. However, Luo Xiao would be greatly affected. Once the power of extreme cold enveloped him, his movements would be at least twice as slow. It could be seen that the ice attribute ring was also very useful in battles. Let's go. Let's move on. Then, Kong Shin-mu asked the 4 of them to move on with him. In the meantime, he tried to let a junior of the Gu family bring one of the blue void flame rings back to the outside world. However, they soon found that practitioners couldn't leave the supreme relic with such a ring. In other words, once a ring appeared in the supreme relic, it couldn't be taken out temporarily. There were originally a few rings in the supreme relic, and there would still be a few rings now. The only difference was who had the rings. This time, Jiang Shenwu and the others searched the corpses of the Dark Wolf Demon Clan and the Sea God Clan. Not only did they find Demon God Clan and Sea God Clan's battle weapons and cultivation resources worth several thousand gold dragon coins, but they also found many good things. Hexagonal fire crystal. They also had some of these things with them, but not many. It was likely that they had sent some of them out first, just like Kong Shinmu and the others. Even so, Kong Shinmu and the others had obtained an additional 5 hexagonal flame crystals. It could be considered a bountiful harvest. Kong Shinmu even tried to see if the hexagonal flame crystal could be integrated into the 3 fire attribute rings. However, he quickly discovered that it couldn't be done. The power of the hexagonal flame crystal was a grade lower than the power of the rings. There wouldn't be much improvement even if it was integrated. Heaven and Earth Saint Grade. It said that many of them have multiple layers of engravings. Every Saint Grade treasure is very powerful, but some of them are naturally sealed and unable to unleash their full power. Luo Xiao began to tell Kong Shinmu everything he knew about the Heaven and Earth Saint Grade. Very soon, Kong Shinmu found out that the Heaven and Earth Saint Grade didn't have different grades. The only difference was the number of engravings. Some Heaven and Earth Saint Grade had a total of 3 layers of engravings. If these 3 layers of engravings were unlocked, they could increase their power 3 times. On the other hand, some Heaven and Earth Saint Grade had 9 layers of engravings. It was even possible to have more than 10 layers of engravings. The so-called strategic treasures referred to Heaven and Earth Saint Grade with more than 9 layers of engravings. If these engravings of Heaven and Earth Saint Grade were completely unlocked, they would contain incomparably terrifying power. It wasn't easy to unseal the engravings of Heaven and Earth Saint Grade. Some required specific materials or a specific elemental power. Otherwise, it would require a huge amount of resources. It was very difficult for an individual to gather something of this level, especially those Heaven and Earth Saint Grade with multiple engravings. Only by giving it to a large race and gathering the power of a large race could they completely unlock the engravings and release the full power of the Heaven and Earth Saint Grade. Of course, there were also some Heaven and Earth Saint Grade with 3 layers of engravings or less. Some cultivators would try to unseal them themselves after obtaining them. That way, the Heaven and Earth Saint Grade would be extremely powerful in the hands of a single person. After Luo Zhao's explanation, Kong Shinmu finally learned that the fan belonging to the evil prince of the Demon God Clan was actually a Heaven and Earth Saint Grade with 3 layers of engravings. It wasn't a battle weapon forged by the Demon God Clan. Currently, Heaven and Earth Saint Grade could only be unearthed from supreme ruins. Most of the Heaven and Earth Saint Grade and above contained an endless amount of formation energy. They were existences with strategic treasures. Many Heaven and Earth Saint Grade with more than 9 layers of engravings unlocked were equivalent to the combined power of dozens of Supreme Realm experts. This showed how powerful they were. Even a Heaven and Earth Saint Grade with 3 layers of engravings unlocked was not something that an Emperor Realm cultivator could contend with. Fortunately, although the Evil Prince's fan had 3 layers of engravings, the Evil Prince had not even unlocked 1 layer of engravings. This was because it required too many cultivation resources, and the Evil Prince had yet to gather all of them. However, even if it was a Heaven and Earth Saint Grade without unlocking 1 layer of engravings, the power of the fan was enough to crush most opponents in the Emperor Realm. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the Evil Prince was undoubtedly the strongest expert in the Supreme Ruins. No one was a match for his Heaven and Earth Saint Grade fan. Previously, when the Evil Prince went to the battlefield in the Dragon Martial Continent, he had dared to act so domineeringly because of this. Unfortunately, he had suffered a great loss in the hands of Kong Shinmu, and was wrongly accused of killing a genius of the virtual human tribe. He must have been depressed for a period of time. Even now, the Evil Prince still didn't know who had set him up. Of course, as long as the Evil Prince saw Kong Shinmu and Xiaobai walking together, he would definitely understand immediately. At that time, Xiaobai had been trapped by the Evil Prince's fan. Later on, Xiaobai had disappeared, and the sealing power of the Evil Prince's fan had appeared on the battlefield of the virtual human tribe and killed 2 virtual human tribe geniuses. The Evil Prince had no idea what had happened, but now that he saw Xiaobai safe and sound, how could he not know what had happened? His fan was called the Blood Rose fan. It was said to be a Heaven and Earth Saint Grade item that he had obtained while exploring a Supreme Ruins. Chapter 4740. After learning about the sacred items, Kong Shinmu finally understood why the higher-ups attached so much importance to the exploration of the Supreme Relics. These Supreme Relics contained sacred items that no race could forge on their own. They were powerful strategic weapons that could affect the battlefield. On the other hand, if one was able to find a strategic Heavenly Saint item in a Supreme Ruin, then the contribution points one could obtain could be said to be inexhaustible. At the very least, it would allow one to cultivate all the way to the bottleneck. Susan Luo was the same. Unfortunately, this guy was unlucky and met the stronger Kong Shinmu in the Dragon Martial Continent and died. It was also because this guy didn't have any sacred items on him, just like the evil prince. Otherwise, Kong Shinmu wouldn't have been his opponent. Senior brother Luo Xiao, according to what you said, these 4 rings are part of a sacred item? Kong Shinmu suddenly said, if these rings are all put together, maybe it will be a complete sacred item? I wonder how many layers of engravings this sacred item will have. Although our Dragon God clan has more people this time, we may not be a match for the evil prince? That's right. Luo Xiao's expression was a bit solemn. He nodded and said, let's continue forward. From my experience, we should be reaching the final space soon. If there are no accidents, we will definitely fight against the evil prince. At that time, it will depend on how many people we have. Kong Shinmu's expression also became a bit solemn. Mr. Yao Xie was definitely a powerful opponent worthy of his attention. Even though the Scarlet Rose fan was a Heaven and Earth Saint Grade artifact that had yet to be unsealed, it was still a Heaven and Earth Saint Grade artifact that was at the initial stage. Its power was enough to surpass an Emperor Realm cultivator. Even a 9th layer Martial Emperor stage cultivator might not be able to win against the Blood Red Rose fan. Not to mention, the adventurers in the Supreme Relics were only 4th level Emperor stage. The power of every Saint Grade weapon was fixed. A Saint Grade weapon that hadn't been unsealed at the beginning would be able to kill a 9th layer Martial Emperor if it unleashed its full power. However, according to Luo Xiao, the recovery rate of a Heaven and Earth Saint Grade Martial 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 Saint Grade Martial. Therefore, as long as the evil prince appeared in the final palace hall, the power of the Blood Rose fan would be reduced by more than half. For Kong Shinmu, it would not be much of a threat. In addition, if the other dragon warriors joined forces, they might be able to defeat the evil prince. Of course, it all depended on how many people there would be in the final battle. The worst-case scenario was that the Dragon God clan would have only 5 people left. Of course, this was unlikely. After all, a total of 100 people from the Dragon God clan had come in, and on Kong Shinmu's side, the Demon God clan and the Sea God clan had lost many people. The Demon God race, the Sea God race, the Thousand-Winged Snake race, and the Ancient Phoenix race wouldn't be able to make it to the end. Kong Shinmu's group of 5 moved forward along the narrow passage. The passage became wider and wider. When it was wide enough, Kong Shinmu transformed into a dragon and flew away. After all, it was safer to travel as a dragon. If they encountered any traps, they would be able to counterattack in time. Fortunately, there were no traps set up in this passage. Speaking of traps, Kong Shinmu couldn't help but think of the ancient Phoenix clans by Feng, who had set up the trap. He didn't know where she was now. Perhaps he would see her in the final palace hall. As they went deeper into the passage, Kong Shinmu felt a violent aura of ice and fire. He also felt as if time had slowed down. According to the demon god ancestors' consciousness, they were close to the skeleton of the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire's inheritor. It was obvious that the power of Ice and Fire was the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire's strongest fighting strength. The heaven-deficient power was its most special ability. It could steal the opponent's time for its own use. This ability was too powerful. If Kong Shinmu could master it, it would be of great help to his cultivation. Stealing the opponent's time for his own cultivation. This was an amazing ability. Unfortunately, If he wanted to have the opportunity to devour the skeleton of the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire's inheritor, he had to become one of the last survivors in the Supreme Ruins. Among them, he had to kill the evil prince. Once they met, he had to kill him. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. Therefore it was very difficult. Not only did he need to be strong enough, but he also needed to be lucky. If the evil prince had made it to the center of the Supreme Ruins without much of the power of the Scarlet Rose fan, Kong Shinmu might not have been his opponent. Unless the Black Dragon's consciousness appeared on its own and took control of his body. But he didn't want to do that unless he had no other choice. Soon, he led the group forward. Along the passage, they finally felt a hurricane of ice and fire. Against this hurricane, they rushed into a palace shrouded in ice and fire. There was only one hall in this palace. It was an extremely vast space. In the center of the hall was a crystal coffin thousands of feet long. The skeleton of a powerhouse was frozen in the crystal coffin. This skeleton was the inheritor of the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire. It was obvious that this was a 6-winged demonic dragon. Half of its wings were fiery red, representing the fire attribute. The other half was ice blue, representing the ice attribute. The dragon's head and body were snow white. It looked extremely dazzling and breathtakingly beautiful. The heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire was very beautiful. It gave off an indescribably eerie feeling. When they arrived at the center of the palace, Kong Shinmu even felt that his time no longer belonged to him. Luo Xiao, Xiao Bai, and the others had followed him into the palace. There were also 2 Gu family dragon warriors of the younger generation. At this moment, in the howling of the ice and fire hurricanes, they actually stopped all their movements. They found that they could not move at all. Time seemed to have stopped, and the only thing left in their surroundings was the howling of the hurricane. They could feel the flow of time passing around them. Is this what it feels like to have time devoured? Kong Shinmu's heart skipped a beat. He noticed that time seemed to be flowing around them. It was flowing toward the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire in the crystal coffin in the center. It was as if time was being devoured. It was as if thousands of years had passed in the blink of an eye around the heaven-deficient demonic dragon of Ice and Fire. It was as if the blue sea had turned into mulberry fields. At first, Kong Shinmu and the others were a little flustered. Soon, they realized that they weren't the only ones. Chapter 47-41. Kong Shinmu began to observe the surrounding situation. In the center of the entire space, there was a crystal dragon coffin that was thousands of feet long. It was surrounded by countless carved stone walls that were dozens of miles wide. Kong Shinmu and the other 4 were standing not far from the entrance of the passage. There were several other entrances around them. These entrances were spaced out from all directions in the Supreme Ruins. It could be seen that as long as they went all the way, they would eventually come to this central palace space. At the entrance to the left of Jiang Shenwu and the others, 4 female disciples of the ancient Phoenix clan appeared. These 4 female disciples had transformed into flaming ancient phoenixes, but even the flames on their bodies were frozen. It was an incomparably mysterious and strange sight. At the entrance to their right, 7 dragon martial artists appeared. These 7 dragon martial artists had transformed into divine dragons, and their leader was Yu Jingxian from the Heavenly Phoenix Feather Holy Land. Yu Jingxian was an authentic Heavenly Phoenix Feather Dragon, just like Yu Tianchong that Kong Shinmu had seen before. At this moment, Yu Jingxian came to this space with 6 dragon martial artists from the 4 Holy Lands. Among them was a dragon martial artist from the 5 Extreme Dark Ice Holy Land. They must have met in the previous scene. Naturally, they also saw Kong Shinmu's group of 5, but they seemed a little surprised and puzzled by the composition of Kong Shinmu's group. Because Luo Xiao was the only dragon martial artist from the Starry Sky Storm Holy Land, and the others all belonged to the Gu family. Were the dragon martial artists from the Gu family so strong that they could directly break into this place? Or did they rely on Luo Xiao? Or Kong Shinmu? Yu Jingxian, who had transformed into the body of the Heavenly Phoenix Feather Dragon, could not move at this moment, but her pair of beautiful eyes were still constantly observing Kong Shinmu's black dragon incarnation. Now, not only could they not move, but they also could not speak. All of their time had been absorbed into the crystal dragon coffin in the center. There were 4 exits here, 1 for the ancient Phoenix clan, 2 for the dragon gods, and 5 for the sea god clan. Soon after, There were 4 exits on the opposite side. Soon, everyone saw 4 batches of experts fly out from the 4 passageways and freeze at the exit. The 4 groups consisted of the Demon God clan on the far left, led by the evil prince. There were a total of 8 of them. This scene played out in front of the surrounding crowd, causing their faces to change. This was too terrifying. As expected of young Master Yao Xie. To think that he would actually bring 8 people to this final space. Wasn't their competition a little too strong? There were still 3 passages on the right. The first was the Dragon Warriors of the Dragon Gods. They were led by a 3rd-class disciple of the 5 extreme Dark Ice Holy Land. Kong Shinmu discovered that Xueqi was in their team. There were 6 of them in total. The second group was led by the 1,000-winged snake clan's Princess Azure Lotus. There were a total of 7,000 winged snakes. The third group was led by the Demon God clan's cultivators. There were 3 of them in total. The battle on this path seemed to be more intense. The remaining 3 Demon God clan cultivators were all injured. There were a total of 8 passageways, and 8 groups of cultivators had arrived at this central palace. No one knew what would happen next. Now, time seemed to have been swallowed up and stopped. No one could move. Even the evil prince had unexpectedly cultivated a rose flower demon's bloodline inheritance. This young master had arrived at this palace in the form of a flower demon. The blood-red rose fan floated above his petals, emitting an extremely tyrannical aura. Kong Shinmu recalled that the evil prince seemed to have transformed into a big mouth and swallowed Xiaobai. This fellow had already discovered Kong Shinmu and Xiaobai. It was obvious that he had realized some of the things that had happened in the past. However, he wasn't too shocked. Instead, he focused most of his attention on this space. This person's mental fortitude was excellent. Jiang Shenwu nodded his head silently, feeling that this was going to be a little tricky. This young noble evildoer didn't even feel the slightest bit of emotion when he found out that the opponent who had tricked him previously wasn't affected at all. From this, one could tell that this guy's mental fortitude was extremely good. It would definitely be difficult to kill this guy later on. There were a total of 8 groups. 2 belonged to the Demon God clan, 3 belonged to the Dragon God clan, and the remaining 3 belonged to the 1,000-winged snake clan, Princess Azure Lotus, the Ancient Phoenix clan, and the Sea God clan. On the battlefield, both the Ancient Phoenix clan and Sea God clan were shocked. Because it was obvious that everyone had arrived, yet the strongest powerhouses of their clans hadn't arrived. They were respectively the strongest genius of the Sea God clan, Wei Mengtian, and the genius of the Ancient Phoenix clan, Bai Feng. Where had they gone? Or could it be that he had already perished along the way? The design of this supreme relic was clear. There were a total of 8 paths. The 8 paths were further divided into more paths. Only the final victor could arrive at the central palace. Now that Bai Feng and Wei Mengtian hadn't arrived, it was likely that they had already failed. As for whether they had died or escaped, no one knew. However, whether it was the members of the Ancient Phoenix clan or the Sea God clan, they all believed that Bai Feng and Wei Mengtian had escaped. After all, they were very strong and wouldn't die so easily. But who would have thought that both of them would die at the hands of Kong Shinmu? Wei Mengtian had died. As for Bai Feng, even Kong Shinmu didn't know where he had run off to. It was very likely that he was hiding in some corner, so they had to be on guard. Even after the 8 groups had arrived, everyone was still motionless. It was as if time had stopped. But immediately after, 16 holes appeared around the crystal dragon coffin in the center. The 16 holes were shaped like rings. This caused the expressions of many people to change slightly. Could it be that the 16 holes were used to put rings in? The power of the rings wasn't weak, but it was obvious that if all 16 rings could be put into the 16 holes, they would obtain an even better and more powerful heaven and earth holy item. Previously, Kong Shinmu and Luo Xiao had guessed that these rings were part of a complete heaven and earth holy item. Now it seemed that it was true. It seems that there are a total of 16 rings here. Who are the owners of these rings? I have 4 rings with me. 3 of the fire attribute and 1 of the ice attribute. This means that there are 12 rings in the hands of others. This competition seems to be very fierce. Moreover, only the final victor will obtain the ultimate powerful reward? Kong Shinmu guessed the specific situation. How would the competition be conducted? If everyone was allowed to compete freely, it would be too chaotic. First, the cultivators from the Dragon God clan and the cultivators from the Demon God clan would definitely find a way to gather and then make other plans. Chapter 47-42. Just as everyone was guessing what was going on, suddenly, there was a change in the situation. The 3 heavily injured Demon God clan disciples suddenly regained their mobility. The 3 of them immediately flew toward the crystal dragon coffin. Everyone's expressions changed. They tried to move but found that they couldn't. How could the 3 Demon God clan disciples be able to move? Kong Shinmu keenly noticed that a stick of icy incense had appeared above the crystal dragon coffin. There was a flame burning on the stick of incense. As the flame burned, the ice kept melting. It looked like a method of timing. From the moment the icy incense started burning, it was estimated that an incense stick's time had passed. There is a total of an incense stick's time for the 3 of them to move? Kong Shinmu guessed. No one could make a sound. They couldn't even communicate telepathically. They could only guess what was going on. Apart from the 3 Demon God clan disciples, no one else could move. When they realized that they could move, they were extremely nervous. But soon, they realized that no one else could move except for them. They were overjoyed and flew toward the crystal dragon coffin in the center, trying to find some of its secrets. However, the evil prince's expression darkened when he saw the 3 Demon God clan disciples. These 3 fools actually went to the crystal dragon coffin? What was there to check? Shouldn't they kill off the other races first at this time? It was obvious that they had to gather all 16 special rings to obtain the ultimate treasure of this supreme relic. What were these 3 fools trying to do? The 3 of them directly stuffed an ice attribute ring into one of the 16 holes in the crystal dragon coffin. Then, everyone saw that the ring seemed to be sucked in and directly disappeared. The crystal dragon coffin didn't seem to have any special reaction. The 3 Demon God clan disciples' expressions changed. Then, they saw the icy incense above the crystal dragon coffin. They seemed to understand something and looked around. They seemed to know that they had to eliminate the opponents of the other races while they could still move, but they really didn't know who to kill first. Some of the exits were far away from them. It was too late for them to rush over now. More importantly, they were already heading towards the center. Any of the exits would be far away. Furthermore, the 3 Demon God clan disciples did not seem to have mastered the void traversal technique. Therefore, they could only rush towards the nearest exit, which was where Xueqi and the others were. Xueqi was with 6 dragon warriors from the Dragon God race. They would be facing the attacks of the 3 Demon God race disciples. Xueqi's group of 6 dragon warriors' expressions changed. They couldn't move at all. How could they defend against 3 Demon God clan disciples charging at them? One had to know that they basically had never cultivated body refining type dragon martial techniques before. At this time, the divine dragon body of the 5 extreme mysterious ice holy land disciple that was leading Xueqi and the others suddenly burst into flames. This is a special fire attribute ring. Everyone's expressions changed slightly. In the next moment, they saw the flame actually start to automatically block the attacks of the 3 Demon God clan disciples. It seems that if they can't move, the special rings on their bodies will automatically appear to block the attacks of others. In this way, the side with the most rings will have a greater advantage and won't be directly killed? Kong Shinmu continued to speculate. The ice attribute rings of the 3 Demon God clan disciples had been tossed into 16 holes, so they basically had no special rings to take out to resist the flame ring. Under the protection of the flame ring, the 3 Demon God clan disciples continued to unleash powerful attacks, but the flame ring blocked all of them. They couldn't break through the flame ring's defense. Everyone present acutely noticed that the special rings seemed to be strengthened in the central palace. They were even stronger than when they were in their hands. Just one ring was able to block the attacks of the 3 Demon God clan disciples. Under such circumstances, the stick of icy incense on the crystal dragon coffin quickly burned out. At the same time, the 3 Demon God clan disciples who were attacking Xueqi's group of 6 froze on the spot. The flow of time around them was sucked into the crystal dragon coffin in the center and swirled around it. This time, everyone noticed a strand of the power of time condensing around the crystal dragon coffin. It was like a translucent breeze that blew directly toward the 4 ancient Phoenix clan disciples. In the next moment, the 4 ancient Phoenix clan disciples were finally able to move. This time, it was their turn to move. Just as they were able to move, one of the women from the ancient Phoenix clan loudly said, "I strongly recommend that everyone take action against Sir Evil when you can. Otherwise, as long as the evil prince is here, we won't be the final winner." The expressions of the disciples of the demon god clan changed slightly when they heard him. However, the evil prince didn't seem the least bit flustered. There was enmity between the ancient Phoenix clan and the demon god clan. Kong Shinmu already knew about this, but he didn't expect the 4 ancient Phoenix clan disciples to make such a decision and attack the evil prince. This was an attack, but it was also a probe. They wanted to find out how many special rings the evil prince and his group had. As the 4 ancient Phoenix clan disciples attacked the evil prince, 4 rays of light suddenly flew out from the evil prince's body. They were 3 ice attribute rings and 1 fire attribute ring. They happened to be facing Kong Shinmu's group. The appearance of these 4 rings caused the 4 beauties of the ancient Phoenix clan to stiffen. There were 4 rings. How were they supposed to fight? It had to be known that the 4 of them only had 1 ring. Only now did Kong Shinmu realize that although there were 8 passageways, each passageway was different. There were a total of 16 special rings in each passageway. On average, each passageway should have 2 special rings. However, Kong Shinmu and the evil prince each had 4 rings. The 3 demon god clan disciples, UCC's group of 6, and the 4 ancient Phoenix clan disciples each had 1 ring. They would definitely encounter less competition than Kong Shinmu and the evil prince. Chapter 47-43. Of the 4 special rings, 3 were of the ice attribute and 1 of the fire attribute. They flew out from the evil prince's side and began to release a terrifying power to resist the attacks of the 4 ancient Phoenix clan disciples. It was clear that even if the 4 women of the ancient Phoenix clan joined forces, they would not be able to break through the combined defense of the 4 special rings on the evil prince's side. They quickly realized this fact and did not waste all their time on the evil prince. Instead, they quickly thought of a way to fly towards the group led by Princess Azure Lotus of the Thousand-Winged Snake clan. When Princess Azure Lotus saw this, she was so angry that her face turned green. What was the meaning of this? They wanted to attack us? However, Princess Azure Lotus soon saw an intention in the eyes of the ancient Phoenix clan disciple. This intention was not unacceptable to Princess Azure Lotus and the others. An alliance. An alliance. The ancient Phoenix clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan only had 1 group present, so they only had 1 chance to act. But if the ancient Phoenix clan allied with the Thousand-Winged Snake clan, then not only would the number of special rings increase, but if they allied with each other, it would also give others a greater deterrent force. This would also make them safer. Soon, the 4 ancient Phoenix clan cultivators flew to the side of the 7,000-winged Snake clan cultivators at their fastest speed and flew directly into their midst. A total of 11 people had actually gathered together. It was easy to imagine that if anyone were to make a move against them, they would be targeted by both sides. Moreover, no one knew how many special rings Princess Bai Lian had in her possession. The 4 cultivators of the ancient Phoenix clan could be considered very smart. If they did not find a direction to ally with, it was very likely that they would be targeted and killed by the evil prince and the others when the evil prince and the others made their move. Currently, there were not many people who dared to attack the allied forces of the ancient Phoenix clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan. After the 4 ancient Phoenix clan cultivators chose to ally with the allied forces, the 5 Sea God clan disciples moved. The 5 disciples of the Sea God clan looked at each other and observed the situation on the field. They immediately decided to admit defeat. They threw the special ice ring they had on them into the 16 holes on the side of the crystal dragon coffin. When the special ice ring was thrown in, the 5 Sea God clan disciples seemed to have made a decision. Then, a white light flashed on their bodies, and the 5 disciples of the Sea God clan directly left the central palace space. They admitted defeat. On one hand, there were only 5 of them here, and on the other hand they had no allies. Their only ally, the Thousand-Winged Snake clan, had already been sought out by the ancient Phoenix clan. Who else could they look for? The Dragon Gods? The Dragon God clan had too many people and did not need allies. They definitely wanted to capture all the other cultivators here in one fell swoop. They would not cooperate with them. Moreover, the Demon God clan disciples. Everyone knew that the evil prince was ambitious. It was impossible for them to cooperate with him. It was impossible for them to cooperate with him. Everyone knew that the Prince clan disciples and the Demon clan disciples. The Demon clan cultivators were Demon race. And the Demon race cultivators would Demon dragons. They did not expect the Sea God clan cultivators to withdraw. However, they should have brought some hexagonal flame crystals or hexagonal ice crystals with them, so they did not suffer too much of a loss. Of course, the Sea God clan as a whole had suffered a great loss. At least the shrimp tribe genius, Wei Mengtian, had died. That was already a great loss. Moreover, many other Sea God clan disciples had also died. Among the 20 Sea God clan disciples, nearly 10 had died in the hands of Kong Shin-mu. As the 5 Sea God clan disciples disappeared, it was time for Kong Shin-mu and the others to take action. Kong Shin-mu quickly felt that the time around him, which had stopped moving, had resumed its flow. His body, which had been unable to move before, was now able to move. He had long realized that the rules of the competition here were that each side had 30 minutes to act. During this time, they could act at will, even if they killed others. Furthermore, Kong Shin-mu realized that the side with the least number of people would act first. For example, the 3 Demon God clan cultivators were the first to act, followed by the 4 Ancient Phoenix clan women, and then the 5 Sea God clan and Kong Shin-mu teams. Therefore, Kong Shin-mu had long been prepared for this moment. There were not many things he wanted to do, but they were all crucial. He immediately raised his dragon claws and a pitch-black devouring power erupted. He could not throw the 4 special rings into the 16 holes in the center. That would mean that he had given up. As for the 3 Demon God clan disciples who had acted first, perhaps they had no intention of retreating, so they were not teleported away even after throwing their rings into the holes. However, at this moment, the 3 Demon God clan disciples suddenly felt a little uneasy. When they saw the 5 Sea God clan disciples retreat, they suddenly realized that they had thrown away the special rings and no longer had the qualifications to continue competing. At first, they had intended to stay here and cooperate with the evil prince so that they could share the benefits in the end. But now, it seemed that they would simply be courting death if they continued to stay. Without a doubt, Kong Shin-mu had set his sights on them. The time it took for an incense stick to burn was considered more than enough for Jiang Shenwu. He did not hesitate. He raised his hand and activated the Sunset Blade Flowing Flash and the Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring. The Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring's flame power could burn a person's soul and kill them directly. Therefore, he liked to use this flame ring. As for the other 3 special rings, he did not expose them. He pretended that he only had one special ring. After all, even a 6-man team like UCC only needed one special ring. It was not a big deal for Kong Shin-mu's team of 5 to only have one special ring. Therefore, Kong Shin-mu only exposed one special ring. He brought Luo Xiao and Xiao Bai with him. The 5 of them attacked the 3 Demon God clan cultivators together. The 3 Demon God clan cultivators could not move at this moment. They could only watch helplessly as Kong Shin-mu and the others attacked. The Necromancy Demonic Fire Ring, the power of the Starry Sky Storm, and the suppression of the 99 Ice Dragon Pagodas. The 3 Demon God clan cultivators were killed on the spot by the terrifying and ferocious attacks. They were already seriously injured, and now they did not even have the protection of a special ring. Just now, they had been constantly praying to leave and give up on the battle. But now that their time had stopped, their prayers had no effect. Otherwise, if they were to retreat when they were attacked, would there still be a need to compete? After killing the 3 Demon God clan cultivators, Kong Shin-mu and the others continued to move. Chapter 47-44. The 3 demon gods were killed without any resistance. This scene caused the expressions of many people in the surroundings to change. This scene was simply too cruel. The 3 disciples of the Demon God clan were frozen on the spot, unable to move at all. In the end, they were directly killed by Jiang Shenwu and the others. Immediately after, Kong Shin-mu flew to the side of Yu Jingxian, the genius disciple of the heavenly robe Phoenix Feather Holy Ground. In this way, the 2 forces of dragon martialists joined forces. If anyone wanted to attack them, they would have to face the combined forces of both forces. This was not the worst part. The worst part was that UCC and the others were also dragon martialists. Kong Shin-mu and the others flew back to Yu Jingxuan's side. Immediately after, they felt that their time was over and they were frozen again. Fortunately, they had acted quickly. Not only did they kill the 3 demon god clan disciples, but they also picked up their belongings. There were a total of 12 hexagonal ice crystals. It seemed that they had gained a lot. It was a pity that they had become Kong Shinmu's wedding dress. Kong Shinmu was in a good mood after obtaining the 12 hexagonal ice crystals. He was also quite confident about the next course of action. Immediately after, Xueqi and the others took action. They did not make any unnecessary moves. They directly rushed to where Kong Shinmu and the others were. Obviously, they knew very well why Kong Shinmu did not meet up with them. It was because they were the next to take action. Of course, it was better to meet up with Yu Jingxian and the others. No one knew whether Yu Jingxian and the others or Princess Azure Lotus and the others of the Thousand-Winged Snake Clan would make the first move. It was hard to say. Therefore, now Xueqi and the other 5 also gathered together. There were a total of 18 dragon gods in the field, and now they had all gathered together. No one knew how many special rings they had in total. In this way, the scene was directly divided into a total of 3 forces. These 3 forces were a total of 8 demon god clan cultivators led by the evil prince. It was a pity that the 3 of them did not meet up with them at the beginning. Otherwise, they would not have died. The other force was the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan led by Princess Azure Lotus. Together with the 4 from the ancient Phoenix clan, they still had a chance of winning. Finally, there were a total of 18 cultivators of the Dragon God clan. A tripartite confrontation. It could be said that such a situation was inevitable. In this sort of situation, anyone would first think of eliminating opponents that didn't belong to their own race. But the 4 from the ancient Phoenix clan discovered that with the protection of the special ring, it would be extremely difficult for them to kill the true key characters. Therefore, they would definitely choose a side. If they didn't choose a side, it was very likely that they would be killed in the next operation. Therefore, in the current situation, it would not be so easy to achieve victory in the battle. The 7 geniuses of the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan led by Princess Azure Lotus took action next. They observed the situation on the battlefield and chose not to move. It was easy to imagine how sullen they were. They didn't have a choice. Others might not know, but Princess Azure Lotus was well aware that she only had 2 special rings. If she wanted to attack others, it was simply impossible. After all, they only had 2 special rings when attacking. But in terms of defense, they had 3, including the one from the ancient Phoenix clan. When they were attacked, they would appear together to help block the attack. It could be said that Princess Azure Lotus and the ancient Phoenix clan were the weakest. When the ancient Phoenix clan first came to the alliance, they didn't think that Princess Azure Lotus would only have 2 special rings. After all, Princess Azure Lotus and the other 6 seemed to have even more special rings. But in the end, Princess Azure Lotus thought about it and decided to continue staying on the battlefield to see how the situation developed. Originally, she had thought of throwing away the 2 special rings and then leading the Thousand-Winged Serpent clan away. If she did that, it would be the same as selling out the 4 women from the ancient Phoenix clan. It could be imagined that the evil prince would not let go of the ancient Phoenix clan disciples who couldn't move. But the reason why Princess Azure Lotus didn't give up was not because she didn't want to harm the 4 women from the ancient Phoenix clan. What did the deaths of the ancient Phoenix clan disciples have to do with Princess Azure Lotus? But she still wanted to try and fight for the final treasure. Even if she became enemies with the evil prince, there might still be a chance. Who knew? She might end up taking advantage of them in the end. 2 special rings had already been taken back into the crystal dragon coffin, leaving 14 special rings outside. Now there was only one party that could calculate how many special rings each side had, and that was Princess Azure Lotus. She clearly knew that the evil prince had 4 special rings, the ancient Phoenix clan had 1, and she had 2. In total, she had 7 special rings. In other words, the Dragon God clan had a total of 7 special rings. Yu Jingxian and the others also had 4? Xueqi and the other 5 had 1. This was certain. Then, Kong Shinmu's team of 5 had 2 special rings? Princess Azure Lotus guessed. As for the others, they all guessed that Princess Azure Lotus had 4 special rings, except for Kong Shinmu. After Princess Azure Lotus and the others finished their mission, it was Yu Jingxuan's turn. She didn't move, but turned her head sideways to look at Kong Shinmu. She had already discovered that the person in charge of Kong Shinmu's team was Kong Shinmu, not Luo Xiao. It was obvious that Luo Xiao had already obeyed Kong Xinmu's commands during the mission. It was obvious that Kong Xinmu was very strong. Yu Jingxian didn't move, but the evil prince, who was going to make the final move, made his move. He didn't want the number of special rings to be exposed, so he split up and attacked the Dragon God clan and Princess Azure Lotus. A tyrannical force swept out, causing all the special rings on both sides to fly out and automatically defend themselves. Thus, everyone discovered that Kong Xinmu and the others had 4 special rings. Oh, 4. Amazing. The evil prince smiled faintly and strangely. He still had some doubts in his heart, and he began to pay more attention to Kong Xinmu. He had explored the Supreme Ruins many times, so he roughly knew some of the rules and characteristics. The more treasures there were, the more people would be teleported there. The fact that Kong Xinmu and the others could obtain 4 special rings showed that they had defeated many opponents on that path. Wei Mengtian and Bai Feng might have been among them. If that was the case, Kong Xinmu was the most surprising person on this mission, so they definitely couldn't let their guard down. The evil prince didn't plan to kill anyone, because both sides had many special rings. Chapter 47-45. Regardless of the number of people or the number of special rings, the evil prince could consider joining forces with the ancient Phoenix clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan. In this case, the dragon gods would occupy half of the special rings, while the other side would also occupy half of the special rings. The evil prince glanced at Princess Azure Lotus one last time and chose to retreat. Joining forces was one thing, but he didn't necessarily want to join forces with Princess Azure Lotus and the others. He didn't want them to change their minds midway and do something disadvantageous to them. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that he wanted to join forces with Princess Azure Lotus and the others, the evil prince would have already killed some of them. After all, the ancient Phoenix clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan only had 3 special rings in total. The evil prince had 4 special rings, so he could completely suppress them with numbers and then take the opportunity to kill some of them. However, he didn't. Once he killed the Thousand-Winged Snake clan and the ancient Phoenix clan, the dragon gods would be the dominant force, and that would be even more disadvantageous to him. When the evil prince and the others' bodies became still again, the 4 ancient Phoenix clan women immediately became nervous. According to the rules, it should be their turn to act next. However, they soon discovered that this wasn't the case. After every force had acted once, everyone stopped moving again. Everyone's time was sucked into the crystal dragon coffin in the center and began to revolve around it. Then, an independent space was opened up around the crystal dragon coffin. At the same time, a message appeared in everyone's mind. It was a voice that came from an incomparably ancient time. Next, a round of battles would take place. This round of battles was a battle with special rings as the wager. Currently, there were 3 forces present, and each force sent a representative to the independent space. The 3 of them would engage in a chaotic battle, and there would only be one winner in the end. The winner would be safe and sound, while the loser would lose a special ring, and that special ring would be taken back into the crystal dragon coffin. After 3 rounds of battles, the rules returned to the previous time limit of 1 incense stick's worth of time for each side to act. Round after round, all the special rings on the field were collected back into the crystal dragon coffin. This rule made Princess Azure Lotus and the others' expressions turn ugly. This was because there would be 3 rounds of the competition. If they lost all 3 rounds, then not a single special ring would be left. This meant that they had completely lost the right to compete for the final treasure. It was clear to all 3 factions that they couldn't afford to lose a single match. Even if they only lost 1 match, it would have a huge impact on the overall situation. Every time they lost a battle, they would be further away from the final treasure. Every time they won, they would be closer to the final treasure. This was something that everyone from the 3 forces knew very well. The next step was to discuss who to send out. There were no rules for the 3 matches, and the same person could even fight consecutively. "I'll go first." Yu Jingxian from the Heavenly Robe Phoenix Feather Holy Land said straightforwardly and looked at Kong Xinmu and Luo Xiao. Kong Xinmu nodded and didn't say anything. Luo Xiao's expression was solemn. "Pay attention to the evil prince. If you were to fight, along with another person, you might not be able to win. If you can't win, remember to admit defeat. Don't die here." "Okay." Yu Jingxian also knew the seriousness of this battle. She could only say, "The evil prince's Scarlet Rose fan is very powerful. If he is the one fighting, then I will focus on exhausting him. Since the ancient Phoenix clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan are staying, they definitely want to compete for the final treasure. If they participate in the same battle as the evil prince, they might not directly join forces with the evil prince. Only by exhausting the power of the Scarlet Rose fan could the Thousand-Winged Snake clan and the ancient Phoenix clan obtain the final treasure. The ancient Phoenix clan didn't even have much desire for the final treasure. They just wanted to kill the evil prince. After all, the number of sacred objects the Demon God clan had was faintly suppressing the other major clans. Thus, they couldn't allow them to obtain more sacred objects. Soon, the three forces had decided on their candidates. Of course, this was only the first candidate. The dragon god sent out Yu Jingxian. Yu Jingxuan's strength was definitely not weak, but she was at a disadvantage compared to Mr. Yao Xie. Even Princess Bai Lian of the Thousand-Winged Snake clan was slightly stronger than her. Of course, apart from these two, Yu Jingxian felt that she would not encounter any other opponents. Then, the Demon God clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan sent out their candidates. The candidates chosen by both sides were completely different from what the dragon gods had expected. They originally thought that the evil prince and Princess Azure Lotus would personally fight, but they didn't expect that neither of them would fight. Instead, it was someone else who fought. It was a black snake disciple of the Demon God clan and a woman of the ancient Phoenix clan. Their strength was almost equal to the top third-class disciples of the dragon gods. Individually, they couldn't compare to Yu Jingxian. But if they joined forces, they could suppress Yu Jingxian. In the next 3 battles, the special rings were used as collateral and couldn't be used to fight. Therefore, this battle was relatively fair. But for the dragon gods, the pressure was great. After all, it was 1 against 2 every time. If this situation continued, the dragon gods, who had the most special rings, would be the first to lose. Fight! Yu Jingxian didn't hesitate and went to fight. She wasn't weak, but the other two were the geniuses and elites of their respective races. They weren't weak either. Even consuming their strength was useless. For Kong Xinmu, his main goal was to consume the power of the evil prince's Blood Rose fan. Unfortunately, the evil prince didn't fight. Soon, the participants of the 3 sides were sent to the independent space next to the crystal dragon coffin. The moment the 3 of them could move freely, all their strength erupted. Obviously, the disciples of the Demon God clan and the ancient Phoenix clan had joined forces for the time being. But they weren't close to each other. To the disciples of the ancient Phoenix clan, they hated the disciples of the Demon God clan. Of the 3 participants, no matter who it was, they all wanted to win. Once they won, it meant that they had more chips left. Once they lost, they would be 1 step closer to defeat. Obviously, the goal of their first step together was to defeat the dragon gods and take away one of their special rings. After defeating Yu Jingxian, the 2 disciples of the Demon God clan and the ancient Phoenix clan fought to determine the winner. Before Yu Jingxian was defeated, even if they had conflicts with each other, there wouldn't be any real conflict. In other words, at this moment, Yu Jingxian was fighting 1 against 2. Chapter 47-46. Yu Jingxian was not weak, but she was not strong enough to deal with 2 geniuses from different clans at the same time. In the end, she was defeated. However, before she was defeated, she still unleashed her greatest power to continuously attack that Demon God clan disciple, causing him to be seriously injured. This was obviously to deal with the evil prince. She wanted to weaken the strength of the evil prince. For Yu Jingxian, she had done her best. After she admitted defeat, she was directly teleported out of the palace. As for the special ring that she had pawned, it was put back into the crystal dragon coffin. After Yu Jingxian was defeated, the female disciple of the ancient Phoenix clan used her strongest power to defeat the severely injured disciple of the Demon God clan. After the disciple was defeated, he admitted defeat and was sent out of the palace. The final winner of the first battle was the ancient Phoenix clan. Thus, the Demon God clan had 3 special rings left, the ancient Phoenix clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan still had 3 special rings, and the Dragon God clan had 6 special rings. It was a relatively balanced situation. What caught everyone's attention was that after the female disciple of the ancient Phoenix clan won, she returned to her camp and was not sent out. As long as she won, she could stay and continue to fight. This made Kong Xinmu not dare to easily deal with the evil prince. After all, no one knew how much power the evil prince had used in the Crimson Rose fan. "I will go next," Luo Xiao said bluntly. Luo Xiao went straight to the point. "Jiang Shenwu, your main opponent is young noble Yao Xie. Now that the Demon God clan has lost a special ring, they should not allow any accidents to happen. They will definitely send the evil prince to fight. So, I will deal with the evil prince and consume the power of the Crimson Rose fan. I won't fight for now." Kong Shinmu shook his head. He planned to analyze the situation. If he was the evil prince, they still had 3 special rings. It was completely acceptable. They could even accept another defeat. Because there were still 2 more battles, and in these 2 battles, they only needed to ensure that they could defeat the dragon gods. In other words, the evil prince might not appear. Even if the demon gods lost another round, they still had 2 special rings that would allow them to continue fighting. After the 3 battles, the rules of 1 round per side would continue. At that time, the number of special rings would decide everything. Kong Shinmu believed that the evil prince's attention was now on him, so it was obvious that he was the main fighting force of the dragon gods. The forces of Yu Jingxian and Yu Cixi each had only 1 special ring left. Therefore they did not have the ability to attack. Similarly, they would definitely not continue to fight. Only Kong Shinmu's team of 5 could fight next. Because only Kong Shinmu and the others had 4 special rings, there was still room for mistakes. In other words, there was no need for the evil prince to participate in the upcoming battle. If he participated, although he could ensure victory, the power of his Crimson Rose fan would also be weakened, and it might even lead to failure in the fight for the final treasure. "I will participate in this battle," Kong Shinmu said calmly. After guessing the situation that he and the evil prince would face, he decided to participate and win this battle. He was betting that the evil prince would not participate in this battle. If he really did participate, then Kong Shinmu would have no choice but to fight with all his strength. Anyway, he might not lose. If the evil prince did not participate, then Kong Shinmu would win the bet. He would win this battle. As long as he did not have the Crimson Rose fan, Kong Shinmu would definitely win even if he had to fight 2 opponents at the same time. He was absolutely confident. Next, the battle began. The second round of the competition began immediately. The person who decided to participate only needed to hold the special ring used for the bet in his hand. It could not be changed at the last minute. Therefore, everyone looked nervously at the arena. The Dragon God's representative, Kong Shinmu. The Demon God's representative was indeed not the evil prince, but one of the evil prince's subordinates. As for the 1,000-winged snake clan, Princess Azure Lotus personally participated. Princess Azure Lotus had also given it careful thought. She felt that Mr. Evil might not even personally participate in this battle. Hence, it was highly likely that the dragon gods would send out stronger people. If she were to personally participate and win this battle, they would possess 3 special rings. Their overall strength could be considered quite good and stable. As long as she won this battle, the following situation would be much better for her. Kong Shinmu, Princess Azure Lotus, and a demon god expert. Princess Azure Lotus would definitely join forces with the demon god expert to defeat Kong Shinmu first. One could imagine how much pressure Kong Shinmu was under. It should be known that Princess Azure Lotus was stronger than Luo Xiao and Yu Jingxian, and her methods were also more mysterious and unfathomable. The 3 of them were transported to an independent space and immediately regained their freedom. They could move freely. Kong Shinmu transformed into his pitch-black divine dragon form and attacked Princess Azure Lotus at the fastest speed possible. He knew very well that Princess Azure Lotus was his strongest opponent this time. When he fought with Princess Azure Lotus, the Demon God Clan disciple might not attack him fiercely. This was because the Demon God Clan disciple would be happy to see Princess Azure Lotus and Jiang Shenwu suffer. The demon god expert only needed to ensure that he could join forces with Princess Azure Lotus to defeat Kong Shinmu before Princess Azure Lotus failed. That way, the dragon gods would almost certainly lose. The demon god expert did not believe that a small and unknown dragon warrior like Kong Shinmu would be a match for Princess Azure Lotus. However, since the evil prince insisted, he would naturally listen. In other words, the evil prince had already guessed that Kong Shinmu might personally participate, but the evil prince did not take the initiative to participate. He planned to first observe Kong Shinmu's strength. He was very sure that Princess Azure Lotus would personally participate to ensure that they won this battle. All of this was within the acceptable range for the three parties. However, the only thing they did not expect was Kong Shinmu's combat strength. The evil prince had overestimated Kong Shinmu's combat strength as much as possible, but he still had not reached Kong Shinmu's true level. At this moment, Kong Shinmu frantically erupted with strength. The Divine Dragon Tyrant Body technique displayed a strong offensive stance, and with the strength of the 9-stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Explosion, he continuously bombarded Princess Azure Lotus. Chapter 47-47. Princess Azure Lotus felt a little strained. She hadn't expected Kong Shinmu's attacks to be so ferocious. As expected of the strongest member of the Dragon Gods. In a one-on-one fight, Princess Azure Lotus felt that she might not be a match for Kong Shinmu. After all, Kong Shinmu might not be using his full strength. Princess Azure Lotus's emerald green python form was currently covered in green poisonous gas that formed a poisonous gas barrier to block Kong Shinmu's attacks. At the same time, the poisonous gas turned into countless small snakes that swept towards Kong Shinmu's black dragon form. The demon god tribe disciple watched the show from the sidelines. He carefully observed the scene, but he didn't make any rash moves. Kong Shinmu's ferocious attacks landed directly on Princess Azure Lotus's emerald green python form. Although Princess Azure Lotus had transformed into an emerald green python form, her python body looked smooth and delicate. It reminded one of her alluring and delicate human form. Blizzard Dragon Stone. Kong Shinmu continued his ferocious attacks. The power of the Blizzard Dragon Stone erupted, and the power of the Blizzard Dragon technique erupted. In the next moment, the power of the blizzard enveloped the entire battlefield. Princess Azure Lotus was enduring Kong Shinmu's torrential attacks. She had no time to counterattack. Kong Shinmu's attacks were too ferocious. She couldn't even block them. However, she believed that Kong Shinmu's attacks wouldn't last long. Once Kong Shinmu showed any signs of weakening, she would counterattack. The demon god tribe disciple was also waiting for Kong Shinmu to weaken. After all, no one could last long against such a ferocious attack. However, they didn't expect that Kong Shinmu's original plan was to attack so ferociously that Princess Azure Lotus couldn't take it anymore. Today, I will let you clearly know what it means to be ferocious. The power of Kong Shinmu's divine dragon form trembled continuously as his devouring power began to devour Princess Azure Lotus's poisonous gas energy. This energy was devoured by Kong Shinmu and transformed into the purest spiritual energy of heaven and earth, restoring Kong Shinmu's strength. Although it couldn't completely restore Kong Shinmu's strength, it slowed down his consumption. Moreover, Kong Shinmu also took some time to devour the beast cores and devil cores he had prepared. These were the best recovery items for him. Others wouldn't be able to recover completely in a short period even if they had recovery pills on them. However, Kong Shinmu devoured the power of these beast cores and devil cores. This was the difference. Blue. Kong Shinmu Jiang Shinmu was even more ferocious and showed no signs. Princess Bai Lian kept on using her defensive techniques. Even though she had consumed a lot of her own energy, she had to use her most powerful battle weapon to block Jiang Shinwu's attacks. She also planned to counterattack. Kong Shinmu looked too ferocious. He didn't look like he was going to be defeated. She also planned to counterattack because Jiang Shinwu looked too brave and fierce. She couldn't see any signs of defeat at all. So, she also launched a counterattack, but all the power of her counterattack bombarded Jiang Shinwu's black dragon body. First, a part of it was devoured by Jiang Shinwu, but instead, it was devoured by Jiang Shinwu for his own recovery power. The remaining part could not cause any substantial damage to Jiang Shinwu. Therefore, she also launched a counterattack. However, the power of her counterattack bombarded Kong Shinmu's black dragon form. First, a portion of it was devoured. Then, Kong Shinmu devoured it to replenish his own strength. The remaining portion couldn't cause any substantial damage to Kong Shinmu. When the demon gods saw this scene, they couldn't help but feel that something was wrong. Why was Kong Shinmu getting stronger and stronger? It didn't seem like he was tired at all. Wasn't this person too terrifying? The demon gods knew that he had to join the battle. Cautiously, he began to attack Kong Shinmu. At this time, Princess Azure Lotus's strength was almost depleted. She began to take recovery pills. However, the effects of recovery pills were minimal. Compared to Kong Shinmu's devouring power, the difference was too great. Kong Shinmu's attacks were still ferocious. Princess Azure Lotus couldn't hold on much longer. Fortunately, the demon gods joined the battle and launched an attack at Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu couldn't block it. After all, he was attacking Princess Azure Lotus with all his strength. If he couldn't use his defensive stance against the demon god's all-out attack, his physical body wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, Kong Shinmu didn't panic. He executed the blade shadow flowing afterglow to dodge the demon god clan disciples' attack. The demon god's attack missed. Kong Shinmu changed direction and continued to attack Princess Azure Lotus. Princess Azure Lotus was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. Wasn't this guy too terrifying? She had never seen such a powerful fourth-stage martial emperor. He was like a perpetual motion machine that would never run out of energy. The demon god clan disciple continued to attack ferociously, while Jiang Shenwu constantly used the shadow wind flowing sunset flash to dodge. This caused the demon god clan disciple to suffer greatly, because he even had to prevent his attacks from landing on Princess Azure Lotus. Now that Kong Shinmu was close to Princess Azure Lotus, the demon god's disciple had to be careful when attacking. Too shameless. The faces of the practitioners of various clans watching the battle also became a little ugly. Of course, the faces of the dragon gods were definitely very good. After all, Jiang Shenwu was so strong, and they really had a chance to win this battle. More importantly, Kong Shinmu had been attacking for such a long time, but he didn't show any signs of weakening. It was simply too miraculous. Only Xiao Bai, Luo Xiao, and the others had followed Kong Shinmu all the way here, so they had some understanding of Kong Shinmu's abilities. As for the other dragon god's disciples, they were shocked. This Kong Shinmu actually possessed such terrifying strength? No wonder he could become a fifth-grade disciple of the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land. The Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land had picked up a treasure. It was said that this Kong Shinmu was a genius from the small world of the Martial Dragon continent? Since when could a small world nurture a genius of this level? Princess Azure Lotus didn't even have time to defend against Kong Shinmu's attacks. She was about to run out of energy. Kong Shinmu's attack power wasn't strong, but after cultivating the 9th stage Extreme Dao Hui Dragon Burst, he had the ability to threaten his opponent. His opponent's defensive dragon martial skill also consumed a lot of energy. As a result, Kong Shinmu only needed to fight a battle of attrition with his opponent. His opponent wouldn't be able to outlast Kong Shinmu. This was Kong Shinmu's violent and ferocious attack tactic. What was violent and ferocious? I am violent and ferocious. Kong Shinmu had already used his actions to vividly display this word, shocking everyone present. The evil prince didn't expect Kong Shinmu to be so terrifying. His expression darkened. Chapter 47-48. However, the evil prince couldn't do anything about it. Although he valued Kong Shinmu, he didn't have a deep understanding of Kong Shinmu. He didn't know how strong Kong Shinmu was, nor did he know the characteristics of Kong Shinmu's battle prowess. Hence, he had miscalculated. The evil prince had never seen someone like Kong Shinmu, who was so ferocious and could last so long. It was as if Kong Shinmu would still be as ferocious as ever no matter how long the battle lasted. In the arena, both the demon god clan disciple and Princess Azure Lotus had almost exhausted all of their energy. They had already consumed several recovery pills, but their effects weren't as quick. Their energy was slowly recovering, but it wasn't enough to keep up with Kong Shinmu's needs. On the other hand, Kong Shinmu was brimming with energy. It was as if he had just entered the fray. He didn't stop attacking Princess Azure Lotus at all. Moreover, he constantly used the Sunset Blade to dodge the demon god clan disciples' attacks. This was simply heaven-defying. Kong Shinmu wanted to exhaust his opponent to death, but he couldn't do anything about it. Finally, Princess Azure Lotus couldn't hold on any longer. She had exhausted all of her energy. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't squeeze it out. In the end, she couldn't even use any defensive techniques. Faced with Kong Shinmu's tyrannical attacks, she had no choice but to admit defeat. Originally, she didn't want to admit defeat even if she was beaten to death. However, when her life was truly in danger, she definitely felt that her life was more important. After Princess Azure Lotus admitted defeat, The Thousand-Winged Snake clan basically lost the right to continue fighting for the final treasure. This was because Princess Azure Lotus and the Ancient Phoenix clan originally had 3 special rings. Now that they had lost one, they were only left with 2. They each had 1 special ring, so they wouldn't be able to kill anyone later on. Under the current circumstances, if Kong Shinmu won, he would have 4 special rings. He would be able to kill whoever he wanted later on. What's more, there was still the 3rd round of battles to come. The evil prince's victory was almost 100% certain. The Monster God clan would have 2 special rings left over, Kong Shinmu's team would have 3, and as for the Ancient Phoenix clan and Thousand-Winged Snake clan, they would only have 1 left. What could a special ring do? He couldn't even protect himself, let alone use this special ring to kill enemies. Hence, with Princess Azure Lotus admitting defeat, the Thousand-Winged Snake clan had basically withdrawn from the fight for the final treasure. As for who would get the treasure in the end, it would depend on how long the evil prince could last. Moreover, it would depend on whether they could fend off the attacks from Kong Shinmu's team. After all, after 3 rounds of battles, it would be a 1-move rule. Under such rules, the side with fewer special rings would be at an absolute disadvantage. Soon, Kong Shinmu defeated the Monster God clan disciple. That disciple couldn't even touch Kong Shinmu, so it was reasonable for him to lose. In this way, Kong Shinmu managed to keep 1 special ring, while the Monster God clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan each lost a special ring. Next up was the final round of battles. Senior brother Luo Xiao, bring the Blue Void Flame Ring with you this time. The Blue Void Flame Ring wasn't of much use to Kong Shinmu's plan. Even if he lost, he could accept it. On the other hand, the Necromancer Fiend Ring and the Golden Flame Spatial Ring each had their own special effects. Kong Shinmu planned to keep them and use them later. Yes, I will do my best to exhaust the power of the evil prince's Scarlet Rose fan. Luo Xiao smiled bitterly. But to be honest, if they join forces with the Thousand-Winged Snake clan, I might not be able to force them to use the Scarlet Rose fan. The Thousand-Winged Snake clan won't join forces with them. Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes. The Monster God clan is very powerful. If they obtain the final treasure, it will be disadvantageous to the Thousand-Winged Snake clan and the Ancient Phoenix clan. Now that the Thousand-Winged Snake clan and the Ancient Phoenix clan have lost the chance to obtain the final treasure, they will do everything they can to stop the evil prince. You go up and directly attack the evil prince. He will definitely use the Scarlet Rose fan in a 1 versus 2 battle. It was just as Kong Shinmu expected. In the next battle, Mr. Evil would definitely take the field himself. This was because if they were to lose another special ring, the situation would become extremely passive. Thus, the evil prince had to guarantee that he would win this battle. However, the evil prince's next battle was tense. It was clear that after Kong Shinmu won the first round, the situation was already tilting in favor of Kong Shinmu. Young Master Wicked stepped onto the stage, Luo Xiao stepped onto the stage, and there was also another Ancient Phoenix clan martial artist. In any case, they still had 4 people left. Now that one of them had left, there were only 3 left. Thus, they had the time to give up and leave. What followed was a fierce battle. Just as Kong Shinmu expected, the Ancient Phoenix clan woman had no intention of joining forces with the evil prince. She unleashed her power at Mr. Yao Xie the moment she attacked. Luo Xiao did the same. Under the joint attack of the two, the evil prince dodged left and right, not suffering any injuries. Even though his strength was constantly being consumed, he still did not use the Scarlet Rose fan. The power of the Scarlet Rose fan was slow to recover. Most of the time, he could only use it once in a battle. Thus, he was very cautious. If he used the Scarlet Rose fan separately, its power would not be as strong. But without a doubt, the evil prince was also extremely strong. With his Fey God Race inheritance, top Fey God Race battle weapon, and Fey martial skills, he was able to fight 1 against 2. Luo Xiao didn't think that the evil prince would be so fierce. However, he still cultivated a high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon martial skill and had a sky-rank Holy Spirit Dragon weapon. Although he had just obtained it, the power he displayed was still extremely strong. A sky-rank Holy Spirit Dragon weapon was the strongest Holy Spirit Dragon weapon a dragon martial artist could obtain. Thus, it was difficult for the average person to obtain one. Its value was extremely high, several times higher than a high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon martial skill. 1,000 gold dragon coins could buy a relatively weak high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon martial skill. But a sky-rank Holy Spirit Dragon weapon required at least 5,000 gold dragon coins. This was also the reason why Kong Shinmu still did not have a sky-rank Holy Spirit Dragon weapon. At this moment, Luo Xiao and the ancient Phoenix clan woman were desperately attacking the evil prince. The two of them attacked the evil prince from both sides, causing the evil prince's strength to constantly drain away. His complexion became increasingly gloomy. They were truly worthy of being the elite geniuses of the various races that came to explore these unsurpassed ruins. Although Luo Xiao and the ancient Phoenix clan woman's strength could not be considered at the peak of the 4th level of the Emperor level, with the two of them attacking the evil prince together, it was nearly impossible for him to deal with them. Chapter 47-49. However, the evil prince would not casually release the power of the Blood Rose fan. Once this saint treasure of the heavens and earth appeared, it would definitely kill. Especially in this extremely precious moment, he could not waste it. Of course, he hated Kong Shinmu even more. Thus, he had already locked onto Luo Xiao. The power of the Blood Rose fan finally appeared. A bright red rose fan bloomed above the evil prince's head. A strange demonic and evil power spread out in all directions, as if some sort of strength was quietly gathering. Luo Xiao and the ancient Phoenix clan woman were both extremely cautious. The evil prince suddenly erupted with a wild offensive towards the ancient Phoenix clan woman. The power of the Blood Rose fan was still gathering, not released. At this moment, the two of them had to be extremely careful. If they weren't careful, they would die at the hands of the evil prince. Although they were only responsible for consuming the strength of the evil prince's world saint treasure, they were also facing a great danger. If they couldn't avoid the evil prince's attack, then all that awaited them was death. No one knew when the evil prince would attack. At this moment, Luo Xiao's starry sky violent vortex emitted an infinite amount of dazzling stars, bursting with the most terrifying power. Not only did he not back off, but he also became more courageous as the battle went on. It seemed like he was going to fight to the death with Mr. Evil. Everyone outside the independent space was nervously watching the battle. Everyone hoped that they would be able to smoothly consume the power of the evil prince's Blood Rose fan. They didn't want to be killed by the evil prince. Suddenly, the ancient Phoenix clan woman made a mistake. Her fiery phoenix body was struck by the evil prince's demonic martial skill. She was a bit distressed, and the strength within her body seemed to be unable to continue. At this time, the power of the Blood Rose fan erupted. A demonic and terrifying force appeared in the independent space and condensed into a blood-red demonic rose that shrouded Luo Xiao. The evil prince really didn't attack the ancient Phoenix clan woman. Instead, he wanted to kill Luo Xiao. But Luo Xiao's reaction was extremely fast. This guy was extremely cautious. Luo Xiao had already decided to give up and admit defeat before his opponent had even condensed the demonic blood-red rose. When the power of the blood-red rose shrouded him, Luo Xiao's figure gradually disappeared. As he admitted defeat, the blue void flame ring that was used as collateral was put back into the 16 ring holes of the crystal dragon coffin. There were fewer and fewer special rings, and it wouldn't be long before the final treasure appeared. And as Luo Xiao admitted defeat, the ancient Phoenix clan woman also admitted defeat. The power of the Scarlet Rose fan erupted from the battlefield. This power was like the eruption of a demonic array. If Luo Xiao had not run away, he would not have been able to withstand it. Even Kong Shinmu would not have been able to withstand it. I wonder how much of the Scarlet Rose fan's power he has used. Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes. But no matter what, it wasn't a big problem. How much power was left in the Scarlet Rose fan would not affect his next plan. This was because he planned to kill the evil prince in the following course of action. It was obvious that it would be extremely difficult to kill the other party in a battle. For instance, the evil prince clearly had the power to crush others, but as long as Luo Xiao admitted defeat, he would be directly transmitted out of the supreme ruins. It would be impossible for the evil prince to kill him. Even though the evil prince had pretended to attack the ancient Phoenix clan woman early on in order to make Luo Xiao relax his vigilance, the result was that Luo Xiao had still slipped away. This made the evil prince feel extremely uncomfortable. He wanted to beat someone up. Therefore, Kong Shinmu had never thought of killing the evil prince in a battle. He wanted to kill the evil prince while the evil prince was unable to move. He had many trump cards, but the premise was that he needed the cooperation of the Golden Flame Void Ring. He could not let others know of some of his ultimate secrets. The evil prince returned victorious. Then, the independent space above the crystal dragon coffin disappeared. In the next moment, the battle returned to the time when each force moved independently. It was obvious that the ancient Phoenix clan had the least number of people. However, they had already lost their special rings, so the remaining 3 women would not be able to do anything if they stayed on the battlefield. As they moved, the 3 women bowed to the 6 people from the Thousand-Winged Snake clan and decided to withdraw from the battle. Thus, the 3 women were directly transmitted out of the Supreme Ruins. 3 people suddenly disappeared from the field, and the number of people seemed to be suddenly emptied. After the 3 women from the ancient Phoenix clan withdrew, Kong Shinmu's group had the least number of people. After Luo Xiao withdrew, there were 4 people left. As for the other 4 forces, they all had 6 people left. It was unknown who would make the first move. No matter what, Kong Shinmu had already decided to attack at this time. The 6 Demon God clan disciples, including the evil prince, were all frozen in place. Even if they were about to be killed, they could not withdraw from this space. This was the best time to kill them. When Kong Shinmu's group of 4 moved, everyone's expression turned serious, including the evil prince. This was because Kong Shinmu's group had the most special rings. Now they still had 3 special rings. This meant that they had a way to kill them. Now that everyone else was frozen in time and could not move, the only way to resist was with the special rings. However, after the first round of battle, everyone understood the rules. For example, when Mr. Yao Xie had just returned, he had immediately displayed a powerful defensive demonic martial skill. Furthermore, he had ordered his 5 subordinates to display their defensive demonic martial skills as well. When these 6 people's defensive demonic martial skills were directly condensed, the defensive energy actually froze in place, helping them to block the attack. The combined defense of 6 people was very powerful. As long as they could hold on for 30 minutes, they would be revived. However, how could they know how powerful Kong Shinmu was? For Kong Shinmu, although it would take some time to deal with this defensive method, it would not take too much time. The key was to contain the power of the 2 special rings. When the 3 ancient Phoenix clan women withdrew from the fight, Kong Shinmu immediately moved. The power of time freezing around him was drawn away. Then he, Xiaobai and the others could move. In an instant. Golden Flame Spatial Ring. At this time, Kong Shinmu directly displayed the power of the Golden Flame Spatial Ring. Endless golden flames burned in front of everyone's eyes. Because this was a supportive power, it did not cause any real harm to people. Therefore, the special rings did not resist. After all, this was the power of the special rings, and it would not cause any real harm to people. And this was the effect that Kong Shinmu wanted. His next move could not be seen by anyone. Even the senses of Little White and the 2 juniors of the Gu family were being burned at this moment, making them unable to see anything around them. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.